and welcome, my gentle and, of course, very modern apes. My name is Erika. I'm your gentle and, of course, very modern host here with my buddy, Dr. Adair. And you found yourself on SkepTalk. This is a show where we take calls from people who believe interesting things that maybe we're skeptical about. And if those people, usually theists, aren't calling in, then we take calls from everybody else with interesting science questions to ask, and then we do our best to answer them. It is January 26th, 2026 on a Monday, and how are you doing, Dr. Adair? We did this before the show, but we gotta vamp, as the popular hosts say. We have to vamp on this show. So how are you?
At the moment, a little bit dizzy. I shook my head a little bit more to the intro song than I expected. So gonna keep things straight. Hold on. Okay, I think I'm okay.
You were jamming out a little bit too hard, such as how things work occasionally. Yeah, I don't know, man. We've got a lot going on in the grand scheme of things, but as I said yesterday, because I hosted yesterday as well, yesterday morning with Seth, yesterday afternoon with Seth, we have to have moments here where we take a minute and try to take a step back and not think directly on the fact that we have slid, and I say this every time I come on this show, we've slid even further than we were previously into the authoritarian sort of takeover that's been going on for the last, well, it depends on how far you want to slide into that. Certainly last year, but really in the grand scheme of things, this has been a plan that has been in motion for much, much longer than that. And of course, we've got people getting executed in the streets, which is terrifying and demoralizing and horrible. But we have to keep on keeping on. Otherwise, the cause is lost anyway. So we're here to do just that with a little bit of levity. Maybe we'll have some interesting calls that have a political angle to them. I don't know. We usually don't on SkepTalk. Usually this is like meant to be the science type of show, which means if you're somebody out there who you yourself are a creationist, you're a flat earther, you don't think the Big Bang happened, you don't think vaccines work, you don't think that trans people are legit, you don't think that climate change is happening, you had an alien encounter, you had a poltergeist type encounter, or you met a cryptid, any of those or anything in between or tangentially related to those types of topics, me and Dr. Adair want to hear from you. We want you to call in, we want you to pitch your case to us. If you believe in something or have experienced something that you want to share with two skeptical people and sort of convince us of your perspective, or at least give it your best shot, this is your opportunity. We have the number right at the bottom of the screen here. That's 1-720-619-2288, or you can use the web link in the description. And, you know, I start these off, and I've said this in most of my shows, so often, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Dr. Adair, I see comments or I get comments responding to me or responding to videos or content that I've made, and people are just like very confidently telling me that I'm wrong on all of the things that I'm saying with regard to science. And calling me a liar or questioning my credentials or whatever. And like, this is an opportunity for those people to call in and have a one-on-one with me. And this is also an opportunity, or for you as well, Dr. Adair, if this is something that happens to you too, or just shoot the shit on these interesting topics. So please call in. I would love that. You got some interesting opening thoughts, Dr. Adair, while I see if our calls are coming in, because I got logged out of call-in studio and I couldn't log in because I was busy vamping. So you take the stage for a minute while I log in.
Very well. So while you did say that we try to avoid being political, it is worth noting that the fact of the matter is, the reason shows like SkepTalk have to exist is in the same sort of reasons that we need to be changing how we do our political discourse, because the fact of the matter is, a lot of the people calling into the show trying to challenge fundamental science is because they don't trust what they want because it doesn't fit the narrative they want. And that leads to the sorts of terrible things that we are seeing. If you are willing to follow along because it fits what your tribe wants, it's leading to violence. Fact of the matter is that. And the only way that we can actually do a better dialogue and actually get to any sort of resolution is having enough respect for facts and critical thinking, rather than do your own research, come out that the earth is flat, and what we saw happen just a few days ago was not just legit, but somehow an ICU nurse deserved to be executed in the streets. And I'm sorry, we need to be thinking better, doing better, and science is part of that. The reason I loved science, still love science, and want to promote it is it's all about let's be critical, let's work together, let's question ourselves to come to the best things rather than here's the narrative and I will hurt as many people as possible to push it forward.
Yeah, so I want to co-sign that and I want to add to it because I watched a video while I was heating up some chili this afternoon, or really this evening, by Simon Dan. He does a lot of like flat Earth content, and I the skepticism circle and the debunking circle and the science education circle is broad, and there are many different circles that overlap in various areas. Anyways, he had this video that was like, why do flat earthers believe what they believe? And it sort of um explained in a much more concise way what I'd previously heard in a Dan Olson or Folding Ideas video in Search of a Flat Earth. The idea is like, why do people believe things that aren't true? And not just things that aren't true. In Flat Earth, we see exemplified something that is so obviously not true, that every part of the world that we live in, from the technology we use to stepping outside and looking at the sky at night, tells us that the Earth isn't flat. So like, how can people at this point still hold on to it? And why have the ideas not evolved at all? Like, why is it the same argument that we're seeing now that we saw in the 1800s with Alfred Russell Wallace talking to doing the Bedford water experiments, right? And the answer that Simon Dan provided was, like I said, similar to the one that Dan Olson did, which is that it's not about flat Earth, right? It's not about evolution and creationism. It's not about anti-vax. It's not about climate change. Really, it's not about any of the science behind that. It's about reaffirming a particular point of view by signaling to other people who hold that point of view, other people who are in your tribe. And it's like, the more that you're willing to put on the table for some of these groups, the more likely they are to accept you as a sort of core member, right? So accepting flat Earth, or believing in flat Earth, is something that is like, if you're willing to go there, you're willing to take a lot on board, and that strengthens that core of the group, and it's like a loyalty check, right? Which is disturbing, but we're seeing a very similar type, and I'll say that's why I think a lot of these ideas are so immune to even just brute experimentation directly in front of your face, like a la Behind the Curve, where you can sit with a flat earther and do the experiment with them and they don't care. We're seeing a lot of this happening right now with these videos surrounding Alex's death, right? Where it's like, okay, when we had one video, there was like a little bit of room to speculate about some parts of what happened, right? I mean, not very much, but at least a little bit. But the more videos that have come out, the more that we've seen, the more completely indefensible it is to take any claim or to take any stance other than this was an execution in the streets. And so because of that, right? Like, because of the I guess the robusticity of the truth here, it's forced a lot of the people who are a part of the tribe of the sort of the Trump administration to take more and more absurd stances, despite what is directly in front of their eyes. They're not revising their perspectives, and that's usually how you can tell when you're in bad territory. Is if, and Aaron was alluding to this earlier, you've got this stance, and the more information comes out, the more you wiggle to try to make your stance fit what it is that you're seeing, instead of letting what you're seeing speak for itself, be it data or a video. So all of this stuff, all of that to say, you guys know I tend to monologue, and I'm actually not vamping anymore because we've had like the second I logged into Call In Studio, we already had 3 callers, so you guys can eat your heart out. I'm just doing this for the love of the game. But all of this stuff is connected, right? Attitudes and how we perceive the world, and how we interact with it, and how we process new information, and who we share it with, and how we share it. All of this stuff is very intrinsically linked. And so it's my hope that in doing things like SkepTalk, we are strengthening a perspective that will lead us in the right direction as a society and as a species. That's all I have to say on the matter. 20 minutes later.
Yes. One last quick thing, though, because of my ignorance, I don't think I know what the word vamping means.
I didn't know what it meant either. I literally just found out what this meant last Monday. So I'm glad that I wasn't the only one. Forrest was the one who brought it up. It's basically buying time. So it's what you do when you come on the show and you're trying to banter with the co-host to give people a chance to call in, but without letting the audience know that no one has called in yet. Right? Like, that's the way to do it. But like, I need you guys to know. I need you to know. We've had people on the line for the second I logged in. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see how many people we got right now. We have, hold on, refresh. 3 people who are waiting. Granted, it is the same three people who were waiting when I first logged in, but they're still there, so the point still stands. Do you want to pick our first caller, or do you want me to?
Well, the thing is, I'm looking at the list and I know which one you're going to pick, and it's the right choice.
Yeah. So you're cool with it then?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go, fortunately for us, we're going directly down the list, and we are starting with Warren, pronounce he, him, from California. Warren is a deist and is calling in. This is what we got from the call screeners, and this, Dr. Adair is correct. This is why I picked this one. The description just says Noah and the heat problem. So, like a moth to the flame, I have to pick one of my favorite topics with regard to creationism, which is the heat problem. Warren, welcome to the line, specifically SkepTalk. How are you, and can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, and thanks for having me. I am a big fan of the line, both Erika and Aaron, and I don't have any, like, I agree with like 99% of everything that I hear on this show. I just wanted to add, because I know you're a big fan of talking about the heat problem stuff, and I've seen like a couple of your videos on your channel, and there is one heat problem issue that I've heard about that I haven't seen you mention, and so that's why I wanted to kind of bring it up. And like
share.
I put it in as like a super chat. Yeah, I put it like a super chat like a month ago, whatever it is, because I couldn't get in. But I have this really old paper, and like from the 80s, and I don't know where I got it, like from some random Facebook debate page or whatever. It talks about how the rainfall itself, like so, like if Noah's flood were to happen, all the rainfall itself would also cause so much heat that it would like I don't know exactly, like it would probably like boil the oceans, but so like basically, and also Aaron, like you being the physicist can definitely like fact check me on this stuff, but I don't want to just read off the paper, but it basically talks about how like if there was so much water vapor in the air for it to condense into rain that would flood the entire earth, like condensation of water releases energy, I believe. Please fact check me, but like, and there would be so much energy from the billions of cubic kilometers of water that would have to fill up the earth. It would raise the atmospheric temperature by like 3,500 degrees Celsius, which is not nearly as big of a heat problem as like all the other things, like the like rapid plate tectonics and the radiometric stuff, but would also just be one additional heat problem that would have to be dealt with. So that's, I just want to kind of like put that on your radar and add it. And I can actually like link the paper if you wanted me to link the paper in chat, whatever it is. But like, just like one extra.
Did you email me about this, Warren? I feel like I might have seen an email from you about this.
I did email you as well.
Okay. Yeah, I have not responded to.
There.
Yeah. I'm usually about a month and a half, maybe sometimes even 2 months behind on my emails for YouTube stuff, just because there's a lot of emails. But I do remember getting this email, and I do remember thinking about that and being like, wait, did I respond?
You did not.
Okay, then that's why.
Okay.
It must have been recent enough. Okay, because I do respond to all my emails when I get to them eventually, but I remember seeing this and thinking, that's really interesting. And then I looked at the amount that you proposed, and this is fresh on my mind because I just did a script and then also a PowerPoint that covers the same topic. What always blows my mind about the sources of heat, and the same is true when we take I'm just taking your word here, the heat from condensation and from evaporation and things like that, from these types of processes, for the amount of water that would have to be dumped onto the Earth's surface. I like putting it in hydrogen bombs because that helps me understand it better, but the amount of heat that would be released from the accelerated nuclear decay is like 10 raised 29 joules, like something to the tune of that, which is equivalent to something like 44 hydrogen bombs per cubic kilometer of the Earth. Like it's some ungodly amount of heat. And then if you take the heat that's been proposed mostly by young Earth creationist sources for all of the other stuff, the lithification of limestone, the hardening of the magma, the movement of the plates atop the surface of the crust, like all of these other sources, impact events, like drum that all up and add it to the accelerated nuclear decay, you only add another 4 hydrogen bombs for every cubic kilometer of the Earth. That's how big the accelerated nuclear decay is compared to absolutely everything else. It is unreal how much energy would be released if you tried to cram. And I believe that I'll have to check when Aaron is talking here in a second, I'll look it up to double check. But I believe that's for the 500 million years of like accelerated nuclear
Mhm.
decay. That is not counting the billions of years that the Earth has actually been here for, right? So we can take that
Yeah.
number and anyways, Aaron, you talk. I'm going to double check that number.
Yeah, I would have to look at the numbers here to figure it out, but I mean, the most basic thing is this. If you have rainwater up in the clouds, it has gravitational potential energy. It comes down. Well, where does that energy go? It has to become kinetic energy, hits the ground, and then becomes thermal energy. So you could do a quick calculation, say, well, how much water was in the sky? If it's enough to cover all the mountains, then you see what's the mass of that water. You're saying it's, what, a few kilometers up, figure out that kinetic energy, and then all that has to be released and become thermal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be called too ducking warm to be livable. So I'm pretty sure that is going to be terrible. I'd have to run the numbers to see how bad it is ultimately, but my intuition is, yeah, that's a gargantuan amount of energy that would be released in that way. And you're just thinking, it's like, oh, it's just rainwater, but it's like, it's a matter of quantity. If you are talking about
Mhm.
global quantities of rain coming down, boom, that's that much energy all being dropped. You might be dropping it slowly, but it's still a whole lot. One thing, though, I do want to note, I had to geek out a little bit about this when Erika had her videos about the energy output and how many hydrogen bombs it was equivalent to. And then I realized, but you're not putting it in units that I understand. So I had to geek out and see how many Death Star detonations is this equivalent to. And this is something I actually did the math on before several years ago. How much energy does the Death Star have to release to completely destroy the Earth? How many megajoules of energy or what have you is that going to be if you need to actually have every single piece of Earth be thrown off at escape velocity? And yeah, the amount of energy is gigantic. And I think when I looked at Erika's numbers, the creationist energy supply was only like 1/100th of a Death Star. So unfortunately, it's just a 0.01 Death Star. So it's a lot of energy, but it's not enough energy for me.
Yeah, on the paper I have here, it says the total heat energy produced by condensing 4.4 billion cubic kilometers of water is about 10 to the 28 joules. So that's for the condensation alone. Does the chat allow me to put in links? I can just put the link in case other people are curious.
Oh.
Okay, it works. Yeah, I put the link in there in the chat.
Oh, I thought usually the chat would block that. Okay, that's actually surprising. I thought only moderators could post chats or post links.
Oh, I see it in my chat. I'm not sure. Maybe it got blocked. I'm not sure, but it's a Google Drive link. But yeah, in case people are curious. But yeah, I just wanted to put that on your radar because I thought it was just like another cool thing that I haven't seen mentioned in that frequently as as the other heat problems that usually come up.
Yeah. Hey man, we can add it all up, right? I mean, there's a lot to pull from. There's a lot of beautiful fruits to pick from this tree. But the bottom line is it's already so unbelievable and impossible to overcome that most of them, at least the ones that are associated with the major organizations, are already appealing to miraculous intervention. And I suspect that that number is going to continue to go up and that the number of adherents to that is going to continue to go up. They're reluctant, but I think it'll happen. So thank you, Warren. I appreciate your call.
Yep. Thank you for getting me in.
Of course, I will email you back regardless. Even though we spoke, I'll be like, hey,
Awesome.
I'm emailing you back because I said I would. So take care, my friend. And I love the heat problem. The heat problem is it's my favorite because it's just so bodacious. It's just such an aggressively absurd Looney Tunes ass kind of argument that I think people find it compelling for that reason.
One other Looney Tunes thing we should add to it as well, just relating to what Warren had brought up, is another kind of physics problem. If you have that much water in the atmosphere, just like holding up there before it rains, well, that means there must be all that water up there putting pressure on the atmosphere. So you realize, wait, there's an entire ocean above us. All that pressure has to be down here to hold it up. Therefore, we should feel like we're under the Marianas Trench as Adam and Eve. And then all of a sudden that pressure goes up. So our ancestors wouldn't have had to worry about the bends. They just would have popped.
That's a good point. The pressure from all of the water, because the fountains of the Great Deep, right? I mean, I don't know. Usually in the windows of heaven too. So the water's, you're sort of getting double teamed above and below from the water. So
Yes.
I don't know. Physics is crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. And then there's, as you say, Looney Tunes.
Yeah, no, it's like Acme TNT kind of thing.
But that would actually explain some of the things, because then there's the question, well, how does the water stay up? It works under Wile E. Coyote physics.
Yeah, it's Wile
So
E.
long as
Coyote.
you don't look, yeah, so long as you don't look down, the rain doesn't fall down.
Yeah, or you can have like a comically large spring, like just a comically large series of springs that are holding it up, and it's water, but it doesn't matter because it's Looney Tunes logic. Anything, it can be held up by a spring no matter what it is. We have a couple of really good calls sitting here waiting for us. I I have been dying to talk to somebody from number four's perspective, 5/4's perspective, for a very long time. Is it okay if we skip to that one?
All right.
I've been waiting for this. Okay. I'm gonna utilize my gavel here, my host gavel. With great power comes great responsibility. You are on the line / SkepTalk. Aaron, pronouns he, him, from Indiana. And Aaron is calling in with a Bigfoot story. They are answering my call. He's answering my call for a Bigfoot story. I never get to talk to cryptid people on this show. So, Aaron, welcome. I see that you're also deconstructing. I'd love to hear about that as well. But first, tell me your Bigfoot story.
Hello. Hi, Erika. Sorry, I might come off a little nervous. I haven't really called into a show like this before.
Please,
So
it's just
if I
you,
start
me,
saying,
and Aaron Adair, Aaron. It's just the three of us and the Bigfoot story you're about to tell me.
Aaron, quite literally, just
Okay,
imagine
well,
you're talking to yourself, because in one way, you are.
perfect. Okay, I can do that. So this happened pre-COVID. So what is that? Probably 7, 8 years ago now. I was at my house, and my Grammy was in late stage cancer treatment, and she was living with us. The only reason I say that is because she was with me while we were outside, just kind of watching the stars. And then it sounds like someone is walking through the creek behind my house. And at first, I thought it was just like a deer or something like that. But then, as me and her like stopped the conversation to listen to it, it sounded like someone on two legs, like walking through the water. And so I get up and I like holler from the porch railing, like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because we live out in the middle of nowhere, and if somebody's wandering through, then they're probably on some weird business that I don't want to deal with. So I holler like, "Hey," and then I hear the water, like the splashing and stuff, stop, and I think somebody's about to holler at me again, and then instead I get like the loudest, ear-shatteringest, like screech, like scream I've ever heard. My grandma heard it as well. It woke up my mom, who was in the house at the time. And by the time I ran in and grabbed a flashlight and got back to kick it on to see what was out there, it was already gone. So it's not, I don't know if it was a Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm not saying 100% that it is. I do believe in cryptids somewhat, I would say, not like the supernatural aspect of them, but just there's probably undiscovered animals out there that are even bigger than we expect, even today, with all the stuff that we have.
I would not be surprised if there were, I mean, I think it's guaranteed that there are critters that we've never discovered that are unknown to humans that are out there. I would be surprised if they were bigger than like a house cat. I would be surprised. Just because humans are everywhere and we've managed to stick our noses in a lot of places. Maybe not a house cat, maybe larger than like a Great Dane. Thank you for your story. I loved it. If I may, I want to dissect it a little bit
Yeah.
and ask a couple of additional questions.
Yeah, please do.
The scream that you heard, what was it most similar to?
Probably like a chimpanzee scream, honestly, where it's like it's not like one continuous scream, but it's that like
Yeah, yeah.
and like building up louder and louder.
Did it sound humanish at all?
If it not it it sounded too loud to be human, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
The reason I ask is because do you just spend a lot of time outside? Do you do a lot of outdoorsy stuff?
yeah, I do. I go around hiking and stuff like that, and I've lived in middle of nowhere, Indiana, and Ohio for most of my life. So
yeah.
that's
I grew
kinda
up in
how we
Indiana.
entertained ourselves as a kid.
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana. I know where you're coming from. Northern Indiana. I grew up in Zionsville. So I don't know if you know where that is, but it's
Oh, gotcha.
north of Indianapolis. Yeah, so my first thought was going to be like a mountain lion or a cougar. And the reason I say that is because when mountain lions or cougars scream, they sound first of all, they're extremely loud. And second of all, they are very human sounding. I mean, they sound and the reason I say they're human sounding and why that would be relevant is because humans are apes and humans sound like apes. And so human sounding could theoretically be apish sounding. And even though I don't know what the current range of mountain lions are, I know for a fact that there are animals that are not supposed to be in Indiana that people have seen in Indiana, right? Just because ranges of animals don't care about the ranges that we give them, and sometimes individuals will go further south or further west or east than we would expect. So I hear something about a call, and it's not. I've heard you guys probably know this about me, but like I'm a motivated reasoner when it comes to Bigfoot. I want to believe in Bigfoot. I don't, but I want to believe in Bigfoot. I would love that. The late Jeff Meldrum, I have his book somewhere in this office. No, in my other room, Sasquatch Myth or Legend or Science or Legend, I think it is. But a lot of the Bigfoot stories that have to do with vocalizations like this can be tied to other animals in North America, right? And oftentimes, a lot of them that people have thought, like in past videos, that they've thought have come from Bigfoot or from like unknown North American hominids, they end up being mountain lions. Sometimes it's guttural bears. Sometimes it's bugling from cervids, but that's pretty rare. So I was just curious about that. Now, here's my second thing, which also wouldn't be surprising, although I think it would be pretty surprising for Indiana. There are a lot of places in the United States where you're allowed to have animals that you probably shouldn't have. And I have had friends who have seen before, actually, I have friends is probably not the right word. I have a friend who was once hiking when we were kids. They swore up and down that they saw a monkey while they were hiking in Indiana, right? Like they described it a macaque. And everybody's like, "You're crazy! Like, there's no way you saw a monkey." It's like that's stupid. Monkeys don't live circumpolar monkeys don't live in Indiana. They swore up and down, and then it turned out that they had a neighbor who was keeping a pet macaque because macaques are pretty easy to get, and that macaque was just like out and about, like had gotten out and was just like in the local area.
Oh, yeah.
So they had seen a monkey. It was just somebody's pet.
I'm not 100%. I know Indiana's fairly loose with
that. Me too.
Pet laws. I know.
Yeah.
I know. And Ohio doesn't have anything going on over there. When I was younger, I lived over in Ohio, and here recently, actually, someone who just kept a private zoo. I think this was like 2 or 3 years ago, over near the Dayton area. They kept a private zoo, and unfortunately, they committed suicide and then just released all of their animals.
Yeah.
And it was just like almost a disaster because there was like lions and tigers in there too. Like
I know this story. I've heard of this story before, where like people were seeing privately kept big carnivores like wandering the woods, and it was just somebody's private zoo that they died and then they'd gotten out. I think I'm thinking of this specific story. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
hopefully that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. What I guess I'm trying to say here is that it's like I think people see weird stuff in the woods. I have not seen enough yet to say that they're seeing an undiscovered North American hominid, right? When I was a
Right.
kid, right, like I think I've shared this before on the show. The reason I love cryptids so much is because I was a big cryptid head when I was a kid. Like I was so sure that there were, cryptids like Bigfoot, Dover Demon, Jersey Devil, Yeti, Skunk Ape, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And part of it was because
Yep. I was right there with you. Yeah.
yeah. I saw what I was so sure was a cryptid when I was a little kid, when I was having a sleepover with a bunch of my friends. We let our dog out, and our dog went out to our backyard, and we lived in the middle of nowhere at the time, and so our home, our property was backed right up next to this field, and the field went for a ways and then met right up against the woods. And there was this berm in the back of the yard that was kind of like I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall at its height. Anyways, our dog goes out and he's like losing his mind at the berm, like going crazy, whatever. And we when we go up to see what it was, like coming out from behind the berm was like this dog-sized, very muscular, very mangy looking, very front heavy looking animal that was kind of just like loping, making its way across the field. And I was so sure that I was looking at like a chupacabra. Like I was positive. I was like, there's nothing else
Yeah.
that this could possibly be. And years later, I saw a bunch of pictures of like black bears with mange and like other, sort of medium-sized animals with mange. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's definitely what I saw. Right. And our dog was going crazy. Like I didn't
Mange
see
will do crazy.
Yeah, mange does
Yeah,
crazy
mange
stuff.
will do crazy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, case in point, it's like I don't doubt that you heard something weird. I'm not convinced that you heard a Bigfoot. I think that it could be a couple of things.
Right.
I think that it could be a large mammal vocalizing in a weird way. I think that it could be a human fucking with you because I can tell you firsthand, as somebody with a very, very, very good chimpanzee impression, I've been told. I've done that in the woods to mess with people, especially when I was a teenager. It was less good back then, but just to mess around with folks who make weird sounds in the woods.
Wait a minute. You said you used to be in Indiana,
Yeah.
and you can make these sorts of monkey noises. Aaron, I think we found the culprit.
Wait. Yeah, I think so. Were you traipsing
Actually,
around
it was
through my
me.
creek about 8 years ago?
Oh my God. I think I would lose this in court. The evidence is all stacked against me on this. It was not me, Aaron, but it could have been, is my point.
Okay.
I matched the,
Okay.
the profile.
I've written down your confession. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
good
like
as
it.
gold now. We got it.
Yeah, you got me
Well,
red-handed. This is admissible in court.
Yeah, I'm not like hard set. No, this definitely was Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I'm fully willing to admit that it's probably something easily explainable. I've just had a few like weird stuff happen in the woods for sure, like you said, and like I think weird stuff just does happen in the woods. But
Yeah,
I definitely want to look. Like I try to look at things skeptically and not just immediately jump to because that, like you were talking about, I was very much into like cryptids and aliens and the UFO phenomenon and all that stuff as a kid. And like I just fully head over heels. If somebody said they had a UFO story, I was believing it. And as I've gotten older, I've realized I need to apply like skepticism and be like, well, we can't, because unfortunately just like looking into people who run like the Ancient Alien show and all of these other like wacky UFO shows and stuff, every time you look into anybody like that, like, oh, this guy was convicted of fraud and like plagiarized a Nazi book to make his alien book. This guy like is just a Nazi himself. Like and you like look into all these like fraudsters, and they're all just like fraudsters and like lying or like trying to push an agenda or just like trying to attach some weird woo-woo energy into cryptids or something like that. And
I gotta say though, that's why I like cryptids so much, because the ancient alien stuff does a lot of really real harm. Because as you said, there are direct ties between basically every one of those guys and like the Vrim and all this crazy shit from the 1930s, like all this weird, like tangentially and then direct Nazi ideology. Usually, if you find somebody who is a cryptid person, they're like, I saw a weird thing in the woods sometimes, or sometime, and I hear that and I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen weird shit in the woods. Like, of course, I like your perspective here, because just because we see weird stuff doesn't mean that we need to jump to the most insane possible explanation for it. That it's like, okay, there's actually a very large-bodied, undiscovered animal living in North America because I saw something or heard something weird in the woods. There are a lot of steps between I can't
Right.
explain exactly what I saw and that. And I think that having a skeptical perspective means just walking through those steps, which it sounds like that's what you're doing, and that's what you want to do. And the best part is if we do all of those steps and we do them properly and we do them every time, and one day we do end up with, oh my God, I think it actually might be an undiscovered North American hominid that is definitely Paranthropus, then maybe that's what we have, right? Then it'll have withstood the scrutiny and we can actually hold that to be the case. I don't think that's going to happen, but doing good science and having a good perspective, skeptical perspective on it means that if we ever do get there, we can be confident.
And I mean, my hope, like at least the quote unquote logical part of it is, well, if they are a highly intelligent hominid with a low population base, they probably would try everything they could to avoid humans as much as possible, because humans historically and contemporarily are not good on any other species on this planet. So if they have any kind of intelligence, like higher intelligence, like a large hominid would, they might do their best to avoid people as best as they could. But at the same time, we have we got satellites and LiDAR and thermal mapping, all of these good stuffs to try to find species like that. So it's a 10-foot ape in the woods is probably not there, unfortunately.
I have thought the same thing before briefly, and when I was at the very beginning of getting into primates, when I was like in high school and stuff like that, the same thought occurred to me, and I found it very compelling that people like Grover Krantz and Jane Goodall were like, maybe, like, who knows, whatever. North America is not fully explored, like there could be some crazy shit going on up there. But my problem with this is, as brilliant as primates are and as capable of hiding from us as they could theoretically be, what I think about is I think about the example of the billy ape. Do you know about the billy ape, Aaron? Have you heard about this before?
No idea.
So this is it's a subspecies of chimpanzee, technically, from the Congo. And this was a rumor. A rumor had been going around for quite some time from people who lived in this very densely forested area of the DRC. And they were like, yeah, there's like these huge lion hunting chimpanzee gorilla hybrids that are living in the woods here.
I
And we
have
call
heard
them
of these. Yes.
they call them the billy ape or the bondo ape, or at least that's the name that ended up getting westernized and getting to us. And they were so sure about this, and the DRC had not been very explored by anybody other than people that actually lived there at the time, I should say, very explored by Westerners at the time. And so eventually, the primatologists in like the late 90s, early 2000s, if memory serves, were like, okay, people keep saying this. And then a couple of pictures came out of like these really massive chimps, like being held by local folks that they shot and killed. And they were like, those are some pretty damn big chimps. So they went to go check, and it turns out there was a subpopulation, or a population subspecies of, I think it was Pantroglodytes virus. It might be troglodytes. I can't remember the specific subspecies, but a subspecies of common chimp living there in the DRC that had not yet been documented. And it was a very skittish, slightly larger than average subspecies of chimp. Not like a brand new subspecies, like it was contiguous with another known subspecies. But they were a little bit bigger than what we would consider for a chimpanzee. They weren't chimp gorilla hybrids, and they certainly weren't hunting lions, right? But they were really big chimps. So what I do when I think about Bigfoot, I think about these guys. I think about the apes that had the best possible chance to never be seen in one of the least populated parts of the entire world. And we were like, you know what? Let's go see if they're there. And then a handful of researchers went out there and they found them. So then I think about, okay, now we're moving up in intelligence, not by much, presumably for Bigfoot, put it around Paranthropus, but they're living in an area where everyone lives and where people are looking for them constantly. And we haven't found the body or any poop or any nail marks or any teeth or anything like that, right? That's why
Right,
I have
yeah.
that's why I have a hard time with it. And also
Mhm.
I'm big on the
And
fossil
that's
record,
why,
obviously. And my thing is like you can gauge pretty well where hominins have been based off of where they leave fossils. And like North America's pretty good fossil wise. Like we preserve a really nice geologic column and a really nice fossil record for a lot of periods of time. No apes. I wish. I wish there
right,
were apes. If there were apes here, then I wouldn't have to go to Kenya every year and look for apes there. But there aren't
yeah,
any apes other than humans, and so I'm doubtful. But like I said, I'm a motivated reasoner. I want Bigfoot to be real. So
right.
if you're out
That
there and you've got the
that's
proof I'm looking for, call in.
yeah. If I bag one, I'll send them to you first for sure.
Please do. Call me immediately and be sure to bag them with a tranquilizer dart. I want to meet them. I don't want to dissect them
Oh
live
yeah,
unless
I
they died
would
by natural causes.
no. Yeah,
Anyways, Aaron, thank you so much for calling in with your Bigfoot story because I never get
thank you
those.
for
I ask
taking
for
my
them every
story.
time. No, please. Thanks for hearing it. Thanks for listening to our skepticism. We have other calls to get to, so I've got to let you go.
Of
But
course,
thank you
yeah.
again, and keep me updated on
Well,
your Bigfoot search. Thanks, man.
perfect. One last thing. Fuck ice.
Sure. Yeah, shoot. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, so totally true. Fuck
Yeah,
guys,
just fuck
absolutely.
ice. And have a great night, guys.
You too, man. Yeah, Bigfoot says abolish ice as well, by the way.
Yes.
All right, your turn. I
Yes.
picked that one. I couldn't help it.
Yeah. I was going to say though, I mean, when it comes to the evidence for Bigfoot, wasn't there like a really good documentary a few decades ago? Like, it was really clear evidence there. It was narrated by John Lithgow.
Yeah, John, John Lithgow. Yeah, yeah. It was a very sad ending, if memory serves. Very tragic. Very he was one of the family members. But oh goodness, now I got a dog barking. As another time, I want to talk about my opinions on the Patterson Gimlin film. But you pick the
Oh,
next. Pick our next caller.
all right. Well, obviously, we still want to do our we try to give priority to theists first. And right now, what I see in queue is one theist, two atheists. And the theist has been waiting pretty much the longest. So I think that's where we got to go.
I completely concur, which means Max, you are on SkepTalk. Max uses pronouns he, him from Chile, and Max is a theist. Says maybe God is
Yeah.
not necessary, but is this the proper question? So tell us, first of all, Max, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Tell us a little bit more about your question and what you want to talk about.
Well, I've been listening, and I'm glad about what I heard because it's connected to part of what you were discussing. So the understanding that I got from listening to you is that you were criticizing the biblical flood because of its physical impossibility, which of course is right, makes sense. But the question that I'm posing, whether or not God is necessary, or independently of that, whether or not the idea is useful, I think there's an alternative way of truth. There is another way one can speak of truth that is not necessarily scientific. So what is encoded in a story like the flood are symbols. They're telling a story. It's trying to teach something rather than exploring empirical fact. So my position is more like a theology. I am a theist mostly from pragmatism, which I believe sits underneath empirical investigation. And this is a blind spot that I think many atheists have. I don't know enough about you two, so I don't know what your beliefs are, but I'd like to hear what you have to think about this. And thank you for having me.
Of course. Dr. Adair, I've taken point on the last two, so
Yeah.
you kick us off.
Yeah, well, first, just when it comes to background, I think both Erika and I came from a religious background and then left it. So it's not that we were born atheists and we're trying to do everything to defend it. It's we were on that side of the fence and then we decided, no, the grass looks better over there. So that's very, very vaguely my journey. Erika, of course, will talk much more about hers because she knows her story better than I do. As for the story being symbolic rather than literal, there's probably a fair bit of truth in that in terms of we can see what were the antecedents to the biblical story, that we see versions of that in much older mythology from the Sumerian and Babylonian culture. And we see, if anything, the Hebraic version of that responding to that story. In which case, if they're changing the story around, changing the details to show their God is different than the other gods, it's like, well, this is fundamentally a symbolic narrative. So in many ways, what you're saying is true. My issue, I guess, would be what would make it so like their narrative is more useful, more true, more socially cohesive than the ones it was riffing off of. And perhaps the other thing is we can tell lots of people do treat this literally. How do we prevent people from saying, God said it, I believe it, that settles it? Those are a couple of my thoughts right now.
Should I respond, or does Erika? Are you going to say something too?
I will co-sign a lot of what Dr. Adair has said there. I've been pretty. I don't know how much you know about us, Max, or our perspectives, or how much you listen to the show, or anything along those lines. I'm going to start with no. My perspective, I did come from a sort of creationist perspective growing up. I've been away from it for quite some time, like since I was like hit high school, really. But I was religious for quite a bit after that, and I didn't become sort of irreligious or agnostic for quite a while. And the reason why I came to that really had nothing to do with the Bible's historicity or the hermeneutic surrounding that or whatever. It came from a more, I guess, philosophical perspective, which we can talk about. All that said, I don't have a problem with an allegorical interpretation of Genesis or of many parts of the Bible. In fact, as Dr. Adair said, and was getting at there, especially based off of its comparison to other ancient Near Eastern stories, as well as traditions that have lasted to the modern day in both Christianity and Judaism and in Islam as well, of interpreting things like Genesis allegorically or as symbolic or as meaning something other than like a biblical literalist might propose, hermeneutically speaking. That's fine. Like, that's a valid interpretation. I don't, a lot of people will say that's cope. I don't think so. I think there's a pretty rich history of people taking those verses
but
not
there's a
to
challenge
be
here.
literal.
From theism to your position, there is a challenge here, because you're saying you don't have a problem with it, but if I'm doing this just to be a bit contrarian for the show, but do you think, you say you don't have a problem with it, but it's still not scientifically grounded, right? This is still not being argued from empiricism. So I'm not arguing, we would be agreeing that there's nothing wrong with believing in the flood myth symbolically. Okay, but if it's not scientific, then what is it? Is it even a thing? So
No,
how can we speak of something that is not scientific?
What I'm saying here, Max, is that I understand that many people take it as meaning something, teaching a moral, teaching a lesson, giving an exaggerated history. I'm not speaking about the flood in particular here. There's many bits of the Old Testament that are filling one or many of those roles, right? Like, it doesn't have to be literal to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be literal to mean something to people. And from a scientific perspective, it's if it becomes symbolic, like, that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with people getting meaning out of that. It's when they try to claim that things that happened in the text, which demonstrably we can't show are possible, are in fact factual, right? That's when those things run up together that I start to have an issue. Does that make sense where I'm coming from there?
It does, and I appreciate the openness. I too have a problem with literalist Christians, young earth creationists, people that deny evolution, the existence of bacteria. These are unacceptable. Like, facts or empirical facts are not negotiable. They're mandatory. If you want to participate in society, then you have to grant that it has a shape, and it's not at the subject of your own whim. But that's one thing. So that's materialist descriptions of observable reality. So we're using a very specific kind of empiricism. We're using correspondence if it corresponds with observable material reality. But then when we're talking about symbols, we're talking about something else. It's no longer about when you act out this symbol, does something good come to it, or is the probability of success increased, something like that. So it's more about helping us cooperate and organize our behaviors, optimize, to give us tools to, rather than murder each other, we have sports. So you take the extreme violence and then you transform it in fiction, and it's healthier. We don't have to murder each other. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to get at is, I don't believe there's even a real tension between science and genuine faith or religion, because religion, the truth that it's trying to articulate, is not made out of anything. It's symbolic. It's a truth about behavior rather than the material world.
So I have some thoughts on that, but Dr. Adair, do you want to say anything first? We
I'll
might
say
be
a little
thinking in the
bit.
same. We might be thinking in the same direction here.
Yeah. My only concern is, will I ever stop talking? But we'll see how it goes. Again, I obviously see that people can find meaning in stories that they don't believe is true in the least bit. I keep hearing people over and over again just fawning over the Lord of the Rings trilogy from Tolkien's books originally and Peter Jackson's film adaptation, that there is such an emotional impact and a love of that story and the sorts of things it kind of tells us about fighting the good fight, friendship over fear, and things like that. Things that we can take away and find value, even though no one is going to try to do an excavation and find proof of the flood that destroyed Numenor. As far as I know, there aren't any people like that are Lord of the Rings fans, as far as I can tell. And we can all sit back and say the story isn't real, but we definitely value it. If we are doing similar things with religious stories, then it seems like, okay, it's the same kind of thing. However, I think, though, most religious people will also say these stories are symbols, and we're now looking for what the meaning actually is. What is the symbol pointing to? And sometimes I don't think the symbols are necessarily all that good. We can try to interpret them around, but then ultimately we're trying to change the symbols, at which point we might as well change the story. You mentioned the flood earlier. Let's bring back that up. What's the whole point of the flood story? The world is so bad, God just regrets doing anything and destroys everything. Does this comport well with the view of a God that is all good and all merciful? Probably not. And then there's all sorts of contortions of how to even make the narrative symbolically fit what we want God to be. So even under symbolism, we have a lot of work ahead of us.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could we try the symbolic exercise to see if it makes any sense? Because when I read the story symbolically, I get a lot from it. I have learned from it and many other stories in the Bible. But if you approach it symbolically, I mean, you said it earlier, people find value in it, but what are we actually talking about? What value? What is it? How do we articulate it? Why would we respect it or recognize it? If it's not scientific, then this is the problem that I have when you dig down to the bottom, is that are we granting that there is more to truth than just scientific truth? And if so, what do we call it?
Well, there's of course the truths that we can learn from mathematics. We're not going to do an experiment to see what is the sum of triangle angles, for example. That's just something that falls out naturally from the axioms of Euclidean geometry. When it comes to the meta-ethics of how we actually say what is good or evil, or good or not good, at the very least, in a moral sense, that is primarily a philosophical exercise. So there's clearly things I would point to and say, these are addressed by tools that are not scientific tools. When it comes then to society, there's still like a scientific aspect to it. If we're talking, say, sociology, what sorts of stories, what sorts of actions bring people together? There's an entire field of folklore studies, and it's treated in a scientific manner. But if we are saying these stories point to something beyond our realm, and if we think there is something to that, then we're getting into all the other interesting questions. If we wish to say these are symbolic, and then we're going to interpret the symbols to be consistent with the stories that we want to tell ourselves, okay, yes, I think we can do that. I think humans do that all the time. I think even Christians do that when, to me, the story looks evil and they try to find some way that, no, this doesn't actually comport with a not so good deity, because they know deep down this isn't a good look. We got to find some other, to use some political terminology, a spin for this. But to be more gracious in terminology, we're making the story fit what we need it to still be relevant today. And if we're changing the story, I think there are other stories that we might look to instead, whether it's Lord of the Rings, or if it's a completely different fiction. If it's, for all I know, there's a creepypasta that we should all be making the next religion. I doubt it, but we should look.
Max, when I teach the scientific method, like I I teach, or I should say I taught, because I'm not teaching right now. I'm in the throes of writing my dissertation. But when I taught for 4 years at my university as a TA, and whenever we taught like biological anthropology, either in a lab setting or when I was teaching the lecture course, the very first thing that we would start with is usually what most introductory science courses start with, which is the scientific method and what is science, right? And I would always teach science as, yeah, it's a good way of thinking, right? Like, I think it's important to know what science is before you start to talk about how to do it, right? We would teach science and define it as a way of knowing. And we would talk about the nature of science in a Popperian sense. It needs to be regularly observable to investigate it with science. It needs to be falsifiable, must be natural, all of these things that it must check in order to use science to investigate it. And the way that we would teach this, and I learned this from my professors, is that doesn't mean that the stuff that doesn't fall into the realm of methodological naturalism, it doesn't mean that stuff isn't important. Right? There are plenty of philosophical questions that we can ask that don't fall within the purview of science, right? And that's a very rich area that's a wonderful part of the human experience, and things that are art and beauty and all of that kind of stuff. That's great. It's important to what we are and how we live. But I think it's important to distinguish between philosophical questions and philosophical conversations and philosophical truths, right? Like, it's hard to reach truth when we're talking about something that is so subjective to so many people, and I don't even know that a lot of times it can be reached. I'm kind of science brained in that way, though. Like, it all gets very heady for me. So I just wanted to say that because you were talking about the nature of sort of big T truth earlier.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I appreciate this perspective too. When I was in university, one of my first classes was also Introduction to Epistemology. What does it mean to investigate, to use science? So we read theory and we tried to understand it. And I celebrate all of it. I draw a harsher line than you, because to me, the truths of science are not negotiable. These are things we have to accept. Maybe it will be difficult for someone to accept the truth, but their disposition should be toward accepting it. But if they're rejecting it, then there's something wrong, there's a problem. They won't be compatible with the kind of society that clearly we want to live in. But that's one thing. That's the scientific aspect. You mentioned this greater aspect, and I'm glad that you see it too. That there's something in philosophy, there's something beyond it that is also important. But then the reason I stopped being an atheist and became a Christian, or at least partly, is if I'm recognizing that my atheism is predicated only against the positions of the theists that affirm strictly literal readings of the Bible, then that's only a very small subsection of all of the possible ways that one can engage the religious story, religious thinking, writing. And so, okay, we agree. I, as a Christian, grant you that those Christians they're not really saying that much. They're very wrong about important things, and so we can safely say, I am not that. But when we say we're atheists, at least this is, hopefully it's to stir up a bit of controversy. We're essentially at some level saying these ideas, they're not really part of the conversation of truth. They exist, yes. People use them for different things, yes. But when we're talking about truth, it's strictly either science, logic, math. Maybe some atheists are moral realists, so maybe some of them will grant moral truth exists as well. But then the spirit, it's off limits in my experience. It's not even a word that is considered as being part of reality. And so I guess my problem is that you seem to be assuming a position that has a foot getting out of atheism, because it sounds like you're recognizing that non-physical truth exists, that abstractions that capitalize meaning and transformation are useful and we should act them out. But then we're no longer in atheism at that point.
I'd like to push back a little bit, because when I was sort of outlining my perspective moments ago, what I was saying is that I don't think we can say if there is, from a philosophical perspective, like an objective truth, right? I mean, maybe we can, but we can't investigate. Yeah, science is, but we were talking about these areas that science can't investigate, right? The supernatural, right. Things like the potential existence of something like that. And I often say on this channel, I talk about how the perspective that I take is sort of colloquially called agnosticism, because I'm okay with saying that I don't know the answer to a lot of these questions, but that doesn't mean that I put God there. You know what I mean? It just means that I don't know
Yeah.
the answer. And that I prefer to use the natural world and methodological naturalism to investigate the world because it can arrive at these objective truths, at least insofar as we can tell. I mean, you can't get past sophistry. Like if we're brains and vats, it's indistinguishable to a reality that is actually tangibly, objectively real or whatever. But
if I may interject, you wanted some politics, so let me say, I would argue we can objectively say that what ICE is doing is wrong. That we're not in the realm of mere opinion at this point. That you were saying we can objectively observe what they did and come away that it was an execution. There was no reasonable way to justify it. And if someone disagrees with this, then it's not just, we cannot agree on moral truth or whatever. No, your government is becoming authoritarian, and if you are a relativist, then you will be less prepared to resist.
I don't know though, because I think we can look at the facts of what happened with Alex of his murder, and we can say, okay, what is the objective definition of murder? What is the objective definition of an execution? What is the objective definition of authoritarianism? And we can connect those dots and come to the conclusion that this was a man who was executed according to the framework that the United States exists. Or the framework that this country exists within, I should say, like with the law and things like that.
Surely you agree that the law is not the source of what is right. The law tries to adjust itself.
I don't.
Right?
Yeah, I do.
Just because something is legal doesn't really solve the question.
Yeah, we're on the same page as that. But there's a difference between saying what happened to him was an execution versus what happened to him was bad or immoral, right? Like those are two, they're woven together in the conversation, but those are different conversations. Can we agree on that?
The law should be moral. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Right, so there's a difference. I fully grant this, but please, I don't want to.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, I was going to say something else, but we can come back to it in a second because Dr. Adair has been waiting for a minute. So, Aaron, give your thoughts.
It is worth noting that even if there are things that science doesn't address, that doesn't really lead to theism or supernaturalism, because when it comes to morality, there are plenty of completely atheistic, naturalistic moralities. Even under relativism, you would say, well, what is our starting point? You could say, well, that's relative. But once we say, well, here's our starting point, here's all the things that follows, and we can still say what's good or bad on that relative starting point. And if you, Max, and I agree what that starting point is, then we agree on all the other things that follow from it. And, well, when it comes to things like justice, peaceful society, orderliness, having thugs kill people recording thuggery in the streets does not comport to any objective method of having peace or justice, fair play, anything that we would dare call good. And the only people who are not saying that are completely motivated reasoning, because you damn well know if the shoe were on the foot, if we were under the Harris administration and she was going on TV and saying, if you have a gun at a protest, you're fair game, holy shnikes, would half the country be on fire about Second Amendment's rights, things like that. The ideas from Immanuel Kant of what's called the categorical imperative, basically the philosophically fancy way of saying the golden rule. If it's wrong doing it to you, it's wrong doing it to me, that sort of thing, but codified. Well, boom, if we agree on that as a principle, what happened is absolutely immoral, and it doesn't even matter whether God exists or not. It becomes from our starting point of what we want to see in our society. And if we say, well, why do we want that? There comes to a point where it's some sort of ultimate point. When it comes to morality, the view I take is something that's usually called goal theory, that there are ways if you build categorical, or that you build imperative statements. And what is a moral imperative is basically say what you ought to do above all else. And what's the biggest motivator to you of all? Well, fundamentally, what actually makes you happy? What makes Erika happy? What makes I happy? What makes JD Vance happy? There's probably a lot of overlap, though I don't want to find out things that have been overlapping JD Vance. That's not an image I want right now. Apologies to the internet for putting that in your brains right now. Nonetheless, there is a massive overlap about what actually makes people happy, and that's a big motivation, because ultimately you're going to do the things that you deep down think you want to do more than anything else. That's kind of just the logic there. And so much else of what our other more elaborate moral systems have can fall from that sort of premise. Again, doesn't matter if God exists or not. Even if God does exist and tells you this is what you ought to be doing, you still have to say, well, why do I want to follow what God tells me? And if it's the ultimatum, you're going to do what I say or else, well, then clearly the thing that is motivating you is not being punched in the face by a deity. And of course, being punched is the least of the things that God could do. On the other hand, if it's you're saying, well, God is telling you, here's the sorts of things that'll make a good society, well, then what's the thing motivating you? Wanting a good society. Either way, the power comes from within. And once you realize that, oh, God doesn't actually answer any of those questions. So to me, morality, logic, all those things are completely independent of whether God exists or not. And so I come back to and say, are there good reasons to think there's anything supernatural, let alone a supernatural creator of the universe? And if not, I'm an atheist.
Sure. I mean, that's fair. And I mostly agree with what you were describing. There are ways through secular morality to make objective arguments. And even from relativity, you can argue against things like what's going on in America. So if I would try and find common ground between our positions, what I can see, it would be that there are stories that people can believe in and act out that bring us closer to authoritarianism, and then there are stories they can act out that move us away from it. So when an ICE agent values a bonus at Christmas over the integrity of families, their participation, their contribution moves the machine 1 inch closer to authoritarianism. And then if you spread that out throughout society, people are faced with choices every day where they decide what they will act out. Will they act out that immigrants are a threat, and it doesn't matter if he has papers, I can just assume they're fake and cause who knows how much damage on this person, or I can think the government may not be telling the full story, that I should try to treat people with kindness because that is what Christ did. There are different people can make different choices, and they will use different stories that they tell themselves to justify the actions, often after the action has been done. So then my argument would be God is useful, maybe not necessary, but it's useful because it's part of the sort of story that can move you toward avoiding authoritarianism, or let's say that the degeneration of the group into chaos, into dissolution. And there are many ways that can happen, many threats. One of them is authoritarianism. And so recognizing that it matters what story we tell ourselves, and then thinking about which story we should tell ourselves, which would be the story that helps us avoid authoritarianism the most. To me, we're moving over into what I'd call religious territory. You might call it morality, and I could agree to use secular language to talk about this. But what I want to lay out is that we're both looking at something else that is not scientific. Maybe it is secular. Maybe we don't need God to talk about it. But just the agreement that it is there, to me, it shows that it's a kind of consensus, a step beyond just atheism or theism. It's some point in between that can see truth in both. I don't know if that makes sense.
I will note, though, that religion has not exactly been a great protector of human rights or blocking fascism necessarily.
Yeah.
Many of the people in charge of this government right now are very happy to wrap themselves in American flags while waving Bibles and then using that to beat down the downtrodden. I mean, I want to be careful. It's very much the case that there are messages in the Bible, both Old and New Testament, that I think have value, that have moral truth to them, that actually do talk about being good to the neighborly, to help the downtrodden and the poor. You can find it in Jesus, you can find it in Isaiah. You also find fire and brimstone in these sorts of things as well. So at the very best, a mixed bag. And the worst part is, when you got a mixed bag, some people really love taking the worst parts of it because that allows them to structure power and use that to so violently suppress what is actually good in themselves and in each other. And when it comes back down to this, there is a bit of science that does help us answer some of these moral questions. Because you keep talking about, for example, how authoritarianism, I can't even speak, wow, I am not able to get vowels out right now, and I haven't had any alcohol. There's no excuse. Authoritarianism. Why is it bad? It's actually an empirical thing we can show. It's like, hey, let's look at fascist countries. How did they do? How happy were their citizens? How stable was that? And we look and say, how did Italy do in the 1920s and 30s? Oh, fuck, that's no good. How did Germany do? Oh, shit, that's no good. All right, how about theocratic systems with
everything?
Yeah, how about we have a country that thinks that their emperor is an actual god incarnate and we should be conquering the world? How well did that work out for Japan? Oh, fuck, that didn't look out too good. Realize over and over again which societies seem to actually have a civilization that we would like to keep going.
Story.
And up until somewhat recently, people would look to the U.S. as, to use a bit of phraseology from the Bible used by Ronald Reagan, the U.S. was a city on a hill, shining up there as an exemplar of what's supposed to be good in that. And believe me, there's plenty the U.S. has done that you can point to and say, no, that's not good. True. But we could at least say the ideals, holy cow, did we find so much value in them? The fact that they're being downtrodden is something we can point to and say, this is bad. And the reason we know it's bad is here's what happens to the countries, the societies that go down this route. We see the darkness because we have the evidence. We can empirically tell, we can scientifically say, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I fully condemn the misuse of religion. And sorry, go ahead.
My thing is quick. I wonder too if you've been talking a lot about the importance of the story, Max, and how you can sort of separate out the supernatural part of these stories from the Bible and say that they still have worth. I wonder then what the point of the supernatural aspects is at all, right? Like there are many stories and books of stories, all right, that we can learn a lot from, and that indeed we do learn a lot from, especially now that media is so diverse. We have so many different stories to tell and so many ways to tell them, and people can use those to help inform their life, right? We talked about Lord of the Rings earlier. Like there was a bunch of great morals in Lord of the Rings, and you can look to history as well. So then we're sort of left wondering, okay, why the Bible in particular? And why the supernatural parts of it? Why no other books? Why no other holy books? And I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm sort of asking it more rhetorically and saying, maybe the good that we can find in the Bible, we can also find elsewhere without some of the baggage that being entangled up with the Bible has occasionally wrought, if you will.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I dislike this position of many Christians to claim something like epistemological exclusivity, that they own the religious truth, and then all other stories are just wrong because they're not Christian. No, this is wrong. Very clearly, there's something in the story that can appear elsewhere. I mean, Lord of the Rings is a Christian story, and Tolkien explicitly says he was inspired by the Christian story to write it. And maybe that's a better sort of delivery mechanism for modern audiences, because it's more based on this medieval aesthetic rather than the biblical aesthetic that carries all of this baggage, but the same sorts of commentaries, wisdom about life, the figure of Aragorn, the sacrifice of Frodo, what this means, what it's trying to show you about being, like the kind of person you can be in the face of evil, what masculinity looks like, these sorts of things. So that's the kind of insight or wisdom that you can receive by being exposed to these stories. But I don't want to just say the good side of it, because obviously there's a darkness to it. It can be misused. People can use stories like weapons, tyrannize, to oppress, steal, murder. So it can be used for good things and for bad things. I'm not saying just because it's God, it's going to be good. No, I'm only saying it's a useful framing. It's a useful symbolic tool. But don't be fooled into thinking that just because someone speaks of God, that they are of God. They could just be deceiving you. So we need to be aware, and we need to be skeptical. So this is why I think it's a sort of marriage between the scientific mind and this other framing.
I think we ultimately agree on more than we disagree, right, Max? Like I think we're all on the same page on most of this. I'd love to talk about this more with you, but we do have 8 other people waiting, so I'm gonna have to end the call. But thank you so much, Max. This was a really lovely conversation.
Thank you for having me, and have a nice night. Bye-bye.
Of course, you too.
Good night.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Looking at our list here, I mean, I can do this next one. We have one person who's been waiting for a long time. I can do 4/3 in like 2 seconds.
Yes, I think that is the appropriate one given the topic, and then we need to jump to our next theist in line.
I agree. Okay, this is super short. We have, and while I'm going to need a skull for this, we have Cedric from Arkansas. No pronouns given. They're an atheist, and they're asking why is the temple in the
Can you hear
skull
me?
so thin? Yes, we can hear you. Sorry, that
And
came
also, that is not Arkansas, that is Alaska.
Oh, I see. I see AR on my end.
Okay,
Yeah, on
then
my
that
end
was a
says
mistype
AR,
on the
which
call
is.
screener's end.
Oh, sorry, Cedric. Mine says AR. AR's Arkansas. But if it's Alaska, then Cedric from Alaska.
Yeah, no, I'm in Anchorage, not some city down there.
Yeah, okay. All
The
right.
only other
I can
Anchorage in the country, I think, is in Kentucky.
Okay, I can answer your question in about 2 seconds, and we have a ton of people waiting, Cedric. So if it's okay, I'm gonna bust through this super quick. So wait, can you see?
I
Can
had
you see?
2 questions, but apparently the other one wasn't put down.
Okay, let me get my skull. Are you looking at the screen right now, or are you just listening?
No, I can pull it up on my laptop pretty soon, but I
You
didn't
don't
want the
have to.
conflicting feed.
You don't have to unless you just want to, but I'm gonna be using a little model, so you can come back to this later if you'd like to see what I'm talking about. But say your other question while I grab this skull.
Dr. Adair, how familiar are you with quantum mechanics?
I had to do the classes in grad school, so in theory, I know about it.
Okay, I had an idea. Basically, so a photon, you can represent particles quantum mechanically as wave packets, and in that wave packet, you can have individual phase velocities that are moving faster than the speed of light, but the group velocity is explicitly not moving at the speed of light. Is something similar what happens with photons moving through like air, where the phase velocity of the photon is still the speed of light, but the group velocity is not?
Yeah, in fact, that's the fundamental sort of reason, or at least related reason, why light, when it passes through a medium, actually goes less than the speed of light in vacuum. So everyone has seen the phenomenon of light water going through water. Its path seems to bend. The fundamental way that our glasses work is that light passing through glass, it bends. The reason it bends is that the speed of light actually changes in that material, and light is still trying to take a path that would minimize the time going from place to place. This is something that was worked out by a couple of mathematicians many centuries ago. And yeah, because the speed of light changes in material, that bends its path. So we see that. Now, why is it being bent? Fundamentally, light is going into some sort of material, and the material has charged particles like electrons. The material that you have, like glass, like water, it's bulk electrically neutral, but it still has electrons in it. So when light is passing through, those electrons have rather small masses, so they can be vibrated by the light. And if you have an electron vibrating, it also produces its own electromagnetic wave, and it would produce an electromagnetic wave with the same frequency it's being oscillated. So this ends up creating its own wave that kind of it interferes with the incoming wave. And the combination of those two gives you the wave packet that now is actually going to be going at a slower speed than if the material wasn't there. So that's at least related to the whole phase velocity versus group velocity thing that you're talking about. And it's a fundamental explanation for why light slows down when it goes through material.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you asked
Now,
why the temple is so thin. This is a very simple explanation, so you can check this out if you go to your screen later. So I have a little human plastic cranium here, and the brain case of a human is made up of 4 distinct bones. You have the frontal bone, which is the one in the front. In front, it makes sense, is the one you slap when you're like, oh shit, you smack your forehead. Then you have your parietal bones. They're paired, and they meet at this little suture that you can see down the middle of the down the midline, I should say, of the top of the cranium. It meets with this frontal suture right here. Then you have your temporal bones, which are where your ear hole is. There's one there, and then there's one on the other side. It's also paired. And then if you flip it upside down, right around that foramen magnum, you have your occipital bone. So you got these 4 bones. 2 of them are paired, 2 of them aren't, that make up your brain case. And your temple, which is a very, very thin section of bone. It's very easy to damage. You don't want to get hit too hard in your temple because the bone is so fragile there. It's like the thinnest of your entire brain case. And the reason for that is it is right where 3 of these bones of the brain case meet. So you have the meeting of the frontal bone, of the temporal bone, and of the parietals. So they all come together right here, and that's why it's so thin. Sutures are notorious for being not super thick. Does that make sense? Think of your squamosal there as well.
Yeah. I'm seeing you pointing with your eraser on the screen, though YouTube is at least 30 seconds behind you.
Oh, oops, sorry. Well, you can check it out later. Yeah, your squamosal, cool. All right, that's all I got. Does that make sense? We're all good though?
Yeah.
Cool.
Those were both of my questions.
Cool. That's all we can ask. Awesome. Okay, my man. Well, we gotta go. We got a couple of other calls, and by a couple, I mean 8. Lines are full. So thank you for your call, and take care. Oh, dang it. I hate when I cut people off by accident. Okay, Dr. Adair, which one do you want to do next?
All right, so we've had a few more theists pop in more recently, but I do want to also respect those who've been waiting for a while. We have
That's
one
how
who's
I
been waiting
feel
for
too.
almost an hour. Let's see if it goes with some timeliness.
Okay, let's do that then. Our 49-minuter right here?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. We got Pinky from Washington. Any pronouns. They're an atheist, and they say time dilation. Tell us, Pinky. Actually, first,
Hey.
Pinky, can you hear us?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. We can. Tell us a little bit more about your question, my friend.
So, my understanding of time dilation is that moving faster or slower or being closer or further to a very massive object will change how your local flow of time goes. And oftentimes in science fiction or like speculation about physics, people will have this idea that because as you approach the speed of light, your own perception of time slows down. And once you reach the speed of light, your perception of time would theoretically stop. Like for a photon, from the photon's perspective, it instantly gets where it's going. Then that means if you go faster than light, you will travel back in time. And then I hear a bunch of other physicists and whatnot saying that backwards time travel is impossible. And the way I understand it, I don't get why people make the leap and assume that going faster than light would cause backwards time travel, because it seems to me like, if I could use an analogy, like the faster you go, the slower time is moving for you. Could be analogous to like pressing the brakes harder on a bicycle slows the bicycle down. So once you get that bicycle to stop moving, pressing the brakes harder isn't going to make it start moving backwards. Does that make sense? Am I crazy?
Well,
Dr. Adair,
let's do better than
crazy. This one is all you, but what I want to say, Pinky, this has nothing to do with your call, but I want to correct myself. I tripped out when I was talking about the articulation of the bones at the temple for our caller moments ago. It's not the squamosal joint. That's early mammals. What I meant to say was sphenoid, so that's my bad. I tripped over my words. I totally lost my mind for a minute. Just want to correct myself so no one walks away with bad information. It's the joining of the frontal, the temporal, and the sphenoid. Okay, sorry. This one's all you guys now. My bad. Sorry for derailing. Continue.
All right. So instead of saying if we're mad or not, sometimes the best thing we can do is do the math. And fortunately, I wrote this down the other day so it could pop back into my head. But I have written it here on this whiteboard. This is the equation that expresses time dilation. So T prime is the time measured in another reference frame that is moving with some velocity v to your reference rest frame. So if you are measuring 1 second in your rest frame and somebody's zipping by at 80% the speed of light, what is the time rate that you'd be measuring on their clock? And in this equation down below, you got the square root of 1 minus, and that's v squared, the velocity of that reference frame, divided by c squared, the speed of light squared. So main things is this. As that letter v gets closer and closer to value of c, this whole fraction gets really close to 1. and 1 minus 1, that's 0. Or basically, this becomes a smaller and smaller value down here in the denominator of this fraction. And if you divide by a small number, you end up getting a really big number popping up. Basically, this is the effect of time dilation. As this v gets bigger and bigger, the t value here gets larger and larger. And as v goes to c, then you have 1 minus 1 or 0, and then you're dividing by 0. And I don't know if you've ever divided by 0. If you do that with a calculator right now, you're going to have to call a hospital because your calculator will explode. I'm being hyperbolic with that, but dividing by 0, it's one of those things that's not supposed to happen. The time ends up blowing up to infinity. So that's already something that's telling us a bit interesting. But also notice this. Let's suppose you actually plug in a value of v there that's greater than the speed of light. So now this side of the equation here, let me get that right. Yeah. If this side of the equation is larger than 1, let's just say it has a value of 2, just to make it easy. So you now have 1 minus 2. What's that? -1. And if you take the square root of -1, now you have an imaginary number. So now you're talking imaginary time. So already this equation is telling you something really weird has to happen if v ever were to be greater than the speed of light. It's already telling you you'd have to have imaginary time popping out, which is another way of saying, hey, you did the math wrong. Something weird is happening there. Most importantly is this. As you are asymptotically trying to get closer and closer and closer to the speed of light, the more and more energy it takes to get that thing to go even a little bit faster, to the point that if you actually wanted to get an atom to the speed of light, you would take an infinite amount of energy. And if it takes an infinite amount of energy just to reach the speed of light, it's going to take more than infinity to get past the speed of light. That's among the things that would tell you that the physics says no, that you're not able to have anything start and move up to the speed of light and pass it. It would literally require more than infinite amounts of energy, and the math would pop out that somehow you'd have imaginary time units.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to rewatch this again several times so I can absorb it all. But this has been really helpful. Thank you.
And just to note as well, when it comes to what happens as we get things going faster and faster, so at places like the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, they pump gargantuan amounts of energy into protons to get them going as fast as they can go. And they are able to get up to 99.9999999% the speed of light. And I'm not exaggerating the number of nines. If I counted that out right, that's about how fast you can get those particles up there. But they can't get them going past the speed of light. And they are trying to put, like I say, gigantic amounts of energy into individual protons, just to put a sense of scale. The Large Hadron Collider, when it's running, they shut it down during Christmas time, in part so that way people can go home on holiday, but also the energy consumption of the Large Hadron Collider is on par to the energy it takes to heat the nearby city of Geneva. So a lot of effort is going into making these protons go as fast as we can, and the best we can do is still less than the speed of light. We tried. We really know what we're doing, and it's telling us no matter how big an accelerator we build, we'll never make particles go faster than the speed of light by just pumping more energy into it.
Okay. I really appreciate this. I think you did overlook one thing, and that's that we clearly saw Captain Kirk go faster than the speed of light and travel back in time.
Eyes got you on that. Destroyed. Huge. Rip Bozo. Sorry, Dr. Adair. Game over for you.
Well, to that, I say,
I can't. That is so, Dr. Adair, you are a dork. Pinky, does that answer your question? It answered mine.
It does.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Right.
We got, I wouldn't rush you out of here, but we are looking at a full set of lines here. So we're going to try to get to everybody tonight.
It's no worry. I'm glad I could talk to you. I'm sorry I didn't have a subject for you, Erika. I'll call again next time you're on.
I'll tell you what, come up with your best monkey question and ask me next time.
I got a nice cryptid story for you next time.
Oh, duh, you can't tempt me like that. I'm just going to throw that back at me. Call back. I'm serious. I want to hear your cryptid story. Thank you. Take care.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That's just like insult to injury. Dangle that carrot in front of me like that. Oh my God. And that would be 2 cryptid stories in one show, which is, I don't think that has ever happened. Okay,
I'm actually thinking, if we dangle the carrot, could we use that to catch the Bigfoot?
Actually, they're notorious. What are they notorious for eating? Big feet? What is the diet of a Bigfoot? It should be a carrot if they're paranthropus, but we can't know that. And people talk about how threatening they can be and how they like rip stuff in half. So I don't know. Maybe they're more omnivorous than we think. I am gonna go. Tell me what you think about this. I'm gonna go to our next theist caller, and then we'll hopefully come right back to. We're sort of hopping over one of our atheist callers, but maybe we'll jump back to them here in a moment. So that leaves us with Ben, pronouns he, him, from what is that? MT, Massachusetts? They're a theist?
That would be Montana.
Montana, damn it. MA is Massachusetts. That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, Montana, I'm commit that one to memory. Theist, as a biology student, Ben thinks it's important to balance religion with our scientific knowledge. Ben, can you hear us?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Ben. We're doing okay. Tell us a little bit more about your statement here.
Yeah, so I think I'm a student who's pursuing a master's in microbiology. And so I think that it is actually very important for us to realize that science is not the only thing that we have, right? Like, there are a lot of people who are in the country of America who believe in things that you might not necessarily agree with, but that has to be necessarily balanced with the things that we know. So, like, I think a good example of this would be vaccines. I think we all three know that we should be doing, taking vaccines, right? But there's a lot of people out there who think that vaccines are the work of the devil and things like that. So I think that in those sorts of situations, I think it's best to show them, right? Like, we should be able to balance our knowledge with and counteract theist beliefs. So I think that would be a good example of that. I just kind of wanted to hear more of what you guys had to think about that.
Can you, okay, maybe I might be misunderstanding it here. Could you repeat your argument here? So you're sort of saying that in order to, and I might be totally strawmanning you here, you're saying that we need to, in order to bring people over to science like vaccines, be a little bit more lenient with our, what, public perception or public portrayal of religion?
Yes. I mean, I think that's not necessarily exactly. I think that both the science field and religious people should kind of be less overconfident. I think that is one thing in the science community that I think falters that, and it's that a lot of people in the science field offer this overconfidence where, like, you think that your knowledge is better than anyone else's knowledge. And I do necessarily, I do believe that we should be listening to the people who have spent the most hours into this stuff. But I can also say that, me as a student, I don't know everything. And I think that that's a very important aspect to think about. And also putting myself into someone else's shoes and knowing that they might not know everything and that they're only working with what they're given. I think it takes both people to step back and realize, okay, maybe this is how I learn. And that's how we become critical thinkers, I think, which is the most important thing we can do as scientists, is be critical thinkers. So that's kind of what I was getting at with that.
So, okay, so the idea then is, and again, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting you here. The idea then is science currently has an adversarial relationship with religion. It puts religion down and it makes religious people feel like their perspective is somehow worth less than science, and that is not a good thing. We should change that. Is that sort of what, am I close, warm?
Yeah. Well, because,
gotcha.
that is what I'm getting at, right? So basically, the concept that I'm trying to get at is, like, there are multiple different religions, and those people, like, this is not something that was created 20 years ago, right? Like, people have been religious for generations, and so to try and disprove generations of religion seems like hitting your head against a brick wall, right? So instead of trying to disprove religion, I think we should promote scientific knowledge and hopefully and push critical thinking.
So I hear you on this, and I I even agree with the sentiment that like science deals with what we can actually test and what we can actually investigate within the natural world. There are claims that religion makes that we can absolutely investigate, and there are ones that science can't really investigate. Then that's sort of outside the purview of science. The thing is, and I don't know what your experience is. You said you're a master's student. I'm also a student, and so I've had a lot of time to be in school, and experiences are different. So I'm not sure where you're located or what your experience has been. But speaking from my own, I don't think I've ever had a class that pitted religion against science. And in fact, most of my science classes, actually, I feel comfortable saying this, all of my science classes, if they talked about religion at all, explicitly said this is not a class that is meant to dunk on religion. This is not a class that's meant to debunk God or come after your faith or anything like that. We're here to teach you how to critically think, and we're here to talk about what the science says and why it says that. And then we work through those processes. An important part about that is that sentiment held true from when I was a student, and I am still a student, but I'm a graduate student, so same boat as you probably. We both also end up teaching a lot as a TA when you're a graduate student. That's also how I teach. So I teach human evolution, or I've taught human evolution, intro to biological anthropology, and that's how I kick off the class, right? Is that we talk about the nature of science, and that would include a moment where it's like, look, I'm not coming after your faith here. That's not what this is supposed to be. And I don't think that those two things necessarily have to be in conflict either. However, when I have seen fights picked or fights break out between religion and science, usually, not always, but usually the religious perspective is the one bringing the bat and throwing the first punch, right? And there's a rich history in the United States of just that. Because I'm in evolution, right? That's the one that I'm most familiar with. But I mean, it has only been in the past 20 years that evolutionary biology has managed to catch a break from religion saying not only, more recently, that it deserves to be taught alongside evolutionary biology, which is, religion isn't science. That obviously shouldn't be the case. But initially, the goal was to not even teach evolution in schools. And I feel that we're in that same boat with a lot of other areas right now. I mean, climate change comes to mind, that NCSE is in constant battle with whether, with trying to get conversations about climate change and about environmental science just into earth science classes, let alone into general science classes here in the United States. And I think you'd have to be kind of naive to think that there's not a religious component to that, because the religious right has a vested interest in climate change not being a thing. So in sum, while I agree with your sentiment here, I don't think that this is a sort of both sides issue right now, at least not in my experience. Dr. Adair, do you have anything to add on that?
In some ways, I see two sides of the coin that we could be looking at. How we are promoting science and doing science education and, promoting it globally, and how are we dealing with this internally. And I completely agree with Erika that, in general, scientists are not going in and saying water is composed of 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, therefore God doesn't exist. Chemists aren't doing that. Biologists aren't doing that, generally, at least. There are almost certainly exceptions, but when it comes to the history of it, it's often been scientists, if anything, pulling their punches from what the implications might be religiously, and the religious fighting back. Let's just go with our friend Charlie Darwin. When he comes out with The Origin of Species, he doesn't even talk about the evolution of humans, but everyone freaks out saying, you're now saying humans are monkeys. How dare you? Darwin doesn't even say that, but people see the implications, see that doesn't match what you would expect from a direct reading from Genesis, and therefore this is anti-religion and it must be stopped. This wasn't Darwin trying to pick a fight. In fact, originally, he was going to die and then publish because he wanted to avoid the fight. That's just a little bit of that science history there. And of course, here in the US, the Scopes monkey trial, where again, it was the early fundamentalists coming in and saying, no evolution teaching, we're creating a law to prevent that. And then this becoming a case with the ACLU to try to change that law, which unfortunately ended up taking decades for it to finally end that law because the legal system is complicated. So there's that aspect. And I agree. When I'm teaching, or I shouldn't say when I'm teaching, when I have taught science, when I've taught physics, even at Catholic schools, I don't go in and say F equals MA, therefore the stuff that you're learning in Sunday school is wrong. energy is conserved, therefore transubstantiation is false. I don't do that because there's no point to do that. I present the science, I present the evidence, I have the students see it for themselves, how the outcomes come out. And if they then see that there are some religious implication to that, that's for them to discover, discuss, and deal with. I'm trying to provide the facts and the approach rather than say, and here's what you must now conclude theologically. So that's the general approach of how I teach. Internal to myself, though, I do have to wonder this, because your statement about we have to balance religion and science. When you say that, I have to then say, okay, if I have scientific knowledge and religious beliefs, when it comes to balancing them, am I balancing and saying, I already believe this and I need to conform with it? Or are we saying, well, these religious beliefs are also a form of knowledge? My argument would be that actually religion does not provide knowledge. So to me, internally, there is nothing to balance because religion fails to produce knowledge. So that's where I'll try to become a bit more antagonistic. But this is then these internal discussions or one-on-one discussions, not what I would do in a classroom full of physics students.
Okay, I feel you. I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you guys at all. But for me, I think this is a question that I would like to pose for you guys as well. As I said, I'm a microbiology student, and one of the biggest worries right now is the recent measles outbreak. And so, a lot of people are not getting vaccinated, right? They're not getting their they're not getting vaccinated for measles because of what could be religious views or distrust in the government. And how, as the scientific community, do we present this information to people that will get them to do this? Because I don't necessarily think that would be strong arming people to take this stuff, because we've done this already and it's only provided higher results of people not getting vaccinations. So I think that's the question I would like to pose for you guys.
Yeah, so you're asking, okay, like if how do we actually fix this, right? There is an immense amount of misinformation out there, and it's causing real harm in places like medicine. I mean, we're not the only country who's dealing with this. I think it was just this week that the UK also lost their measles-free designation because we're having outbreaks here and people travel and it ends up getting reintroduced to places. Or maybe I don't know that that's necessarily even it. It could be that they're having their own anti-vax surge there. I'm not sure. I'm not an epidemiologist. I think the best that we can do when it comes to getting people to get vaccinated is to increase people's trust and public perception of science and the scientific process. And that is done through science communication, and that is done through transparency, and that is done through public outreach. Outside of those things, or just forcing people to take the measles vaccine, which, to be fair, I am in favor of. If you're coming to a public school, and I really feel strongly that for private schools, it should probably also be, unless you're doing like a homeschool co-op, it should be required. Like you need these vaccines, and I think MMR is required for most private schools, but I don't know if there's like a blanket legislation for that. I mean, we're fooling around with people's lives here. Kids have and will continue to die because of it. But I think you're right, Ben, that like strong arming people isn't going to do it, but you can lay down basic rules, and I should say enforce them and spread them out that have been set in place for quite some time, and then explain why those exist, right? I mean, you don't have to, I would say religion doesn't even need to be a part of this. If the issue is, and the reason I say this, I think, is in part tied to the flat earth conversation that we were having earlier. I don't know how long you've been listening, but we were talking about the nature of flat earthers before. The people who are actually hardline anti-vax for religious reasons, there's no amount of, sorry, that's one of my dogs. There's no amount of scientific information or presentation or legislation that is going to get them to vaccinate, right? Because they're coming at this from a religious perspective that is divine to them. That is like a divine command or a divine perspective, whatever, like a reasoning, motivation, I suppose I should say. So like, I'm at a loss with regard to how do you convince those people? Because if you can have people who believe in flat earth for those types of reasons, and you can't convince somebody to do an experiment in their own backyard or to get on a plane, and to believe that the Earth is, to accept that the Earth is round. I don't know how you do it with vaccines. The problem here, of course, is that flat Earth has no real, tangible, isolated consequences, and anti-vax absolutely does. So I think that, to sum it up, we need to legislate the hell out of MMR for public places that kids are going to be. Right, like that just has to happen. Like, you're not forcing people to get vaccinated. You're saying, if you come to this place, you have to be vaccinated. You don't have to come to this place. You don't have to go to public or private school. You don't homeschool your kid if you really, really, really don't want to vaccinate them. But otherwise, this has to stand firm. And then public outreach, communication between epidemiologists and the general public, between doctors and their patients, walking people through this. I think if this gets bad enough, what we'll probably see is some kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Institution of like a lesson plan in general high school and middle school biology, like an emphasis on vaccines, medicine, what they do, how they work, things of that nature, so that kids are actually brought up with this type of thing more normalized than it already is. That's the best I got. Dr. Adair, do you
That was
have
actually
any
something that I
additions? Oh, sorry, say that again,
I
Ben.
apologize. I did not mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
It
That
was
was
my bad.
actually something that I proposed. I did speech and debate in high school, and I actually did a speech proposal on increasing the knowledge of vaccinations in earlier schools, like in middle schools even, just so that people aren't being continued to spread misinformation on subjects that are literally costing lives of millions of people. I mean, I had my mom is a speech pathologist, so she works with a lot of kids with autism and stuff like that. And so, I'm sure she gets that a lot where,
Oh my God, I
parents
can't
won't
even
vaccinate their
imagine.
children. Yeah. And so one of the mothers that she works with, right, so she did not get vaccinations for her child, and she gave birth to a child with autism. And now all of a sudden, she's worried that, oh, well, maybe this was all misinformation this entire time, and now she's having to retroact that type of stuff. And this is the problem that I'm trying to get at with this. I saw, even someone in the comments was like, it's not on the scientific community to solve social problems. I don't know what other people get into science for. I'm studying like this. This is 6 years now. I'm doing this to help people. I don't want people to be misinformed. I don't want people to die from pertussis because they didn't vaccinate their children. You know what I'm saying? So I think
I do.
it's important
And
for.
I concur with you on that, right? Like, I'm a big advocate here on SkepTalk and over on my own channel that it's like, the more scientists who are also science communicators, the better. That being said, it's not everybody's strength, right? Like, some people aren't as good at communicating science, and some science communicators aren't as good at science itself. Like, we can divvy this up. That's the wonderful thing about the scientific community, is we can all kind of play to our strengths. That being said, general advice: don't watch chat. I always advise our callers, don't watch chat. Chat is rambunctious. They are gonna they come after me, and I'm a host. So don't let them get to you. But no, I mean, I think this kind of stuff is important, and I'm glad that that's your goal. I mean, the scientific community is gonna be better with you in it, especially with that as at your forefront, right? And I'm glad we're on the same page with this. But what you have to do with stuff like parents who have this realization, like, retroactively. I mean, first of all, the default should be, I would rather have my kid have autism than die of the measles. It's because autism is not bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's
Hey,
fine.
I
Like,
have it, so.
yeah, hey man, like, it's like, would you rather like take a walk in the park or be shot in the head, right? Like, that's the two options that we have here. Like, there's just, it's fine. But I don't know, short of ramping up our science communication and interaction with the public, and starting that earlier, sort of as you were getting at, and doing some serious legislative changes, what we're going to be able to do here. And I have a feeling it's going to get worse before it gets better. Dr. Adair, do you have some thoughts on that?
I do, because I have a little bit of direct experience on stuff I had rewatched, so it's in my head. You were wondering if there has been a drop in measles vaccination in the UK, and it's been quite the opposite, because the whole connection of measles and autism started in the 90s in Great Britain with Andrew Wakefield
yeah,
and his study. And so, interesting enough, I was an exchange student in England in 2005, and one of the dorm mates I had, actually wasn't in my same dorm, but like in the same hallway of dorms, she got mumps while there her freshman year. Like she was basically like one or two rooms down from me, and I didn't even know what mumps was. And I look it up online, and I'm like, okay, I'm staying away from you because this is what's going to do to my testicles. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to try this out because I know so little about it because I, like most everyone in the US, just naturally got the MMR vaccine and no one even thought about these things. But in the UK, there was this big scare. There was a significant drop in vaccines, and the diseases started coming back. But most importantly, the numbers reversed. And now the UK, as last I had seen, has vaccination rates just as good or better than before the scare created by Wakefield. And the big reason was people realized all that shit that Wakefield said was false, lying, money grubbing shit that was shown through careful documentation. And that person lost all credibility. And of course, conversely, no other study came even close to validating anything the person said. In fact, a lot of the evidence was literally faked. We discovered that some of these kids claimed to have autism after being vaccinated, didn't even have autism, didn't have these collitises that are being claimed and things like that. It was just every single thing that could be bad about that study, it had that and worse. And if I can recommend something, Ben, if you have a lot of extra time and you haven't watched it, are you familiar with the YouTube channel H-Bomber Guy?
Let's go.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, because yeah, it was like 3-4 years ago, he did like a 2-hour-ish expose on the Wakefield study, primarily relying on the work of the journalist Brian Deere. Yes, Brian Deere, who did like all the really good investigative journalism to show how much of this was just absolute garbage at best. And I say at best because a lot of it should really be called fraud. And the thing is, the UK got that information and en masse returned back to following good scientific practices. A lot of people will switch their minds if you do two things. One, show them the truth. Two, show that the naysayers are actually untrustworthy. And of course, three, see how bad things can actually get when all of a sudden all these kids start having mumps and measles. Those things will at least convince a lot, and not everyone. We know there will be intransigent people that they will watch their child die in their hands and blame Obama. It doesn't matter. That once you got a narrative, you'll stick to it in many cases. But most of the people, most of the time, if you trust in their own reasoning abilities and you treat them as adults and provide them information, most people can be convinced. And of course, conversely, don't promote or vote into office and give power to the worst folks for these things. I don't know, like RFK Jr., who will not do anything science-based if it goes against his narrative. And my goodness, we're suffering because of that. We would be in a better case if the person running our health and human services, our CDC, things like that, actually were science-minded rather than a lawyer with an axe to grind and just will not care what the actual evidence is for whatever internal reason that they just are this weird vaccine hater and just yeah, two things. Don't promote idiots to office and promote good science. Show them the truth and show why those who are attacking it are actually the untrustworthy people who actually are trying to take money out of your pockets and poison your children.
So I wanna interject here and hit the hopium pipe for a minute because I think I may have given the wrong impression earlier. I was thinking about some of the stuff that I said, and then I was thinking about what Dr. Adair said there. I think that there are some people, as Aaron just articulated, who are hopeless, who are going to hold their dying child in their hand and still be like, thanks, Obama, right? But that being said, that is the minority, right? The majority of people, when the outreach is there, are going to be like, oh, duh, I don't want my kid to get measles, and this is really obvious, and so I'm going to get my kid vaccinated if they have that exposure to that kind of information, right? And if we bring kids up, the next generations that are coming up, with the ability to actually parse out to parse out, critically think aspects of our media and aspects of our scientific literature, right? That's going to give them their tools to sort of be able to dissect some of this stuff on their own. So I think that by and large, people will listen if if we can show them the actual information, the actual data, as you guys both articulated. I saw a poll this morning, and who's to say if this is actually going to end up holding? But I mean, we keep coming back to this conversation of the murder of Alex in Minnesota, and it's like I saw a rise allegedly in like 5% of Republicans who were down for defunding or reducing funding towards ICE, specifically with relation to what happened over the weekend. Right? This is telling us that like a lot of people do listen. A lot of people, if they see it with their eyes, if it is just absolutely undeniable, the fact of the matter, then they're like, well, duh. So we need to do that with vaccines. That's the TLDR. There is hope here, I guess, is what I'm getting at. If it can happen in the UK, it can happen here. So let's get to it. But Ben, we have a lot of other callers that we got to get to. This has been a lovely conversation. Was this good enough for you? Do you feel like you had a good chat or had your question answered?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a good conversation. I think, I guess to close off, I think it is definitely important to hit the opium pipe a couple times and, be open-minded. I think that that's a really good thing to have in the science community. And that, I guess to close off again, I think that in order to reach that, I think that we have to, again, be open-minded that other people are not going to know the things that we know. And in order for those people to listen, we can't necessarily say, you believe in God, I don't care what you have to say. I think that it takes a listener to speak. So that's, I guess, what I'd have to say.
I concur with the sentiment on that. I would just propose that that's how it is in most cases. And I'm sorry if that hasn't been your experience, because that sucks. It sucks to have somebody, regardless of their perspective, be condescending when you're having a conversation about something that is completely unrelated. So, but thank you again, Ben. Call back if you like, and take care.
All right, thank you.
Okie dokie, artichoke. What are you thinking, Aaron? The Aaron that is here.
I think you might have hit the wrong button.
What did I hit?
You just dropped me as the host. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, shite. Sorry. Okay. I
heard a noise, and the thing is, no, here's the thing. What you did was minimal. Here's one thing one of the earlier times, or like maybe a few months ago, I hit the button that actually just ended all the calls. Everyone who was waiting was just gone. So when it comes to screw ups, I'm sorry. I've taken the cake and I've run with it. I followed my face into the cake I ran with.
I'm so sorry. I actually just nuked. I hit the eject button and just blasted them out of the airlock. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. Now that we're back, I think we're back.
Yeah, we're good.
And sort of, okay, my bad. Sorry. Okay, Dr. Adair, now, which one do you want to think? Now, this is why I shouldn't be the host, by the way. This is why I'm a passenger princess.
No, you need more practice.
All right. Okay, so quickly looking through, I see a theist and a deist that are still remaining. How about we go with the person who's been waiting the most, and then we jump to our two theistic callers, and then everyone else we can after.
That sounds good. Okay, we are going to go with our next longest waiting call then. We got Patrick, him, from New York City. He's an atheist, and the call description says, what happens after death, but with a period, so not a question. It's what happens after death. So Patrick, tell us what happens after death, my friend, if you can hear us.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happens after death, but I think that nothing happens, right? It's like being asleep where you can't wake up, but some people say that we don't know for sure what happens after death, but you notice, like, we never see anything like a soul go to heaven or anything. The body just remains.
I mean, as far as I know, yes, that seems to be what happened. I mean, I was talking about this with Seth yesterday, but like back in the day, they used to do like experiments when people were like on death's doorstep, where they would like weigh them moments before death and then weigh them while they were dying and then weigh them again once they were dead. And so they were trying to determine the exact weight of the soul. But it turns out there's nothing that leaves that cannot be accounted for mass wise. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people would probably say that something leaves after you die or something happens after you die and that there's scientific support for it. I just haven't seen it.
Well, what do you think about Ghost?
I don't think ghosts are real, but I've also never encountered a ghost. So, I mean, I know some people who claim to have seen ghosts or claim to have seen weird things, and I even know I even have like close friends slash family, ambiguous on purpose, who have had like weird, spooky, ghost-like encounters, and they don't really know what happened. You know, they'll explain it to you, and they'll be like, "But I'm not really sure." You know what the deal was. I saw a weird thing or a weird face or a person or heard somebody speak or whatever. That doesn't mean that that's a ghost. That means something weird happened. Like it could be an auditory hallucination. It could be a visual hallucination. It could be that someone was walking around in their house. It could be that the fabric between the dimensions was thin there and they accidentally saw someone through the veil or so. I don't know. I mean, it could be a million different things. The last one is a joke, Dr. Adair. Don't decapitate me for it.
No worries, no worries. I'll just note that when it comes to a lot of those ghost stories, the reason they become so spooky is that there is some piece of information that has gone missing in the telling. Either they didn't notice it or they forgot about it, didn't emphasize it. And once you go back and you can find out that extra context, you might then discover the source of the spookiness. The late investigator Joe Nickel would do all sorts of investigations like this, where people would come with some sort of ghost story, some sort of house being haunted, building being haunted. The stories are interesting, and the way to find out what's going on is to investigate. So Joe would go do these sorts of investigations, see if he could find something plausible. No time did he come back and find ghosts. And so many times he'd come back and say, oh, here seems to be the cause of this weird draft or this weird sound. Over and over again, a more plausible explanation could be arrived. And conversely, no one has come across any sort of evidence of ghosts that really stands up to scrutiny. So the combination of the stories themselves seem to be unreliable. When we can check them, they are something naturalistic ultimately. And conversely, nobody's come along with anything concrete to show those spooks are doing anything. The best evidence I have seen of ghosts, unfortunately, has been provided by several comedians in the 1980s.
I want to co-sign this. You were gassing up H Bomber Guy earlier. I'm going to take a minute to gas up one of my favorite YouTubers, although I also love H Bomber Guy. I'm a big Jenny Nicholson fan. And Jenny's got this video on paranormal home inspection, which was a show that was on Discovery Channel or TLC or one of the ones. You know, it was right during the transition between the late 2000s and the early 2010s when all of the formerly good educational channels became not that. And Animal Planet paid nothing but Pipples and Parolees and tanked. It sucked. And Treehouse Makeover or whatever. Anyways, in Paranormal Home Inspection, the layout, Jenny Cover does this really funny video where she goes through like the structure of the actual videos or of the actual episodes, but like it always starts with the narrator and then they've got like a psychic on there and like all of these people who are like clearly bought into the idea that this house, because someone's called in and like, my house is haunted, there's a poltergeist, and then they come in and do a paranormal home inspection. But in the middle of the show, on every episode, there's this regular old home inspector, a guy named Brian. And Brian rolls up and he like just checks the house for normal, reasonable explanations. Like, I think one time he finds out that there's an actual gas leak. And he's like, well, that's why you're hearing weird shit. You have a gas leak. And I specifically remember this one time where I remember this from Jenny's video. I did not watch Paranormal Home Inspection. But she talks about this one episode where the people called in and they were complaining that they were seeing this looming figure on their staircase, like in their stairwell, and that you could only see them from a certain angle, and that they were always very large and imposing and were only there at certain times of day, you know, the witching hour or whatever. Anyways, Brian shows up for his reasonable part of the paranormal home inspection. Sorry, that's my dog. And he finds out that whoever owned the home before the current person had done a paint job. And when they repainted the upper area of the stairwell, they accidentally used two slightly different paints. And one of them, like right where the two different types of paints met, it was in like this vaguish dome shape that gave it the appearance of a silhouette, but only in certain light. And he shows it, and it's like, okay, that is a crazy explanation for seeing a ghost in your stairwell at 3 a.m. every night. But it's like Dr. Adair said, there are these types of explanations that hypothetically exist for every weird ghost story or ghost encounter. I just thought I would bring that up because I thought it was a fun anecdote. Anyways, Patrick, does that answer your question about ghosts / what happens after death?
Well, there's no proof of any spirits or anything, right?
Not that I've seen.
Nothing that convinces me.
Well, I guess like in older times when cameras first came out, maybe like if someone caught like a ghost then on camera could be real, but like, today's technology, since it, with apps and stuff, it could possibly be edited.
Oh, it's interesting you mention that because there were lots of pictures of ghosts in the early 19th or late 19th century, but people started noticing when they said, "Hey, there's this ghostly image in this picture," but that's the person down the street. Realizing that actually, if you use things like double exposures, you can actually create ghostly images. So people may not have had Photoshop from Adobe, but there was photo editing even in the old days.
Well, Patrick, I would love to actually, genuinely, I would love to keep talking about ghosts because I have fun, interesting anecdotes about ghosts and stuff like that all day long. This has been a delight because we got a cryptid call and a ghost call in the same show. That has never once happened, so I'm just tickled pink by it. But we do have 5 other callers to get to. So if it's okay with you, Patrick, if you got nothing else, we're going to move on to the next call.
Well, I want to say something.
Okay. Go ahead.
If ghosts exist, then God can't exist, right? Because, like, according to theology, like, people either go to heaven or hell. So if the spirits remain on the earth, then that would contradict the Bible, right?
I've never really thought about it, but I mean, I know that there are Christians out there who are scared of ghosts. So I don't know how they square it.
It's complicated because the Bible is not clear exactly on how the afterlife works. Some parts of it's from dust you came, dust you'll return. So there's just no afterlife. There's this idea of Sheol, of being some sort of shade in the underworld. There's things like the Witch of Endor, who is able to bring back the ghost of the prophet Samuel, so that way he can tell Saul how much trouble he's going to really be in. So there's that, and then of course heaven and hell, kind of later developments. So the Bible's not exactly clear on how the afterlife is going to work. So I think a Christian is free to interpret it many different ways.
Oh, all right.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Patrick. Take care, my friend. And if you have a weird ghost encounter, call in and tell us about it.
All right.
Thank you, dude. Take care. Bye bye. Okay. You'll notice at that time I did not end everything. Oh, I didn't actually bring about the apocalypse in Colin's studio. I think we can just go to right down the list. Oh, I'm excited.
I think that's the best. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for this next one. We got David, pronouns he, him, from Texas. David is a theist. And David says that our science is in quotation marks, is a secular science and that it ignores Eucharistic science. So I'm really interested in this. David, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good day.
Superb.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your statement here.
Yeah, so there are Eucharistic miracles that happen. And last time I called in, Matt kind of cut me off, but I won't bring him up. I know I've listened to the show. You guys don't like when I bring people up that aren't here, or right? So there's on PubMed, there's a Dr. Lanoe who did some research on Eucharistic miracles, and that was actual cardiac tissue, and it had white blood cells present, and they were still alive, and that's from centuries ago, the host that turned into flesh. So how is that possible? You're scientists, right? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, can you give me the citation again so I can pull it up?
This is Dr. Linoli on PubMed, and even the UN confirmed these things. So, like, you guys are, like, not really doing your research. And you're telling all these people, like, hey, look at this, look at that, but you're not doing research.
So I'm going to go ahead and correct you there. I've spent time on this channel and also in my private life researching not Eucharistic miracles,
Okay, do you know who I'm sorry to cut you off. But,
yeah. Hold on. Let me finish my thing and then I'm going to boot it to you. I've got one sentence to say.
Sorry about that.
When I looked up the power of prayer and proposed miracles associated with prayer, I found them lacking because all of them had alternative explanations that on the website that was hosting these papers, their frequently asked questions actually delved into and sort of responded to, right? So you'll have to forgive my skepticism here. The last time I looked into this, I wasn't convinced. Okay, now you got it. I'm going to pull this up.
Okay. Have you guys looked into like St. Carlo Acutis and his website? I mean, he's got a great number of Eucharistic miracles and things on there that actually have science backing it. I mean,
if that's the case, can you tell us about some science? David,
they give
the thing is, it's pretty easy to set up a website and make claims. One of the things we try to do as a bit of filter is have they done
literally scientists, even on YouTube you can find them telling you.
Yes, here's the thing. People can say anything on the internet. David,
they're literally doing
don't make me have to mute you.
They don't even know about it.
All right, I'm gonna have to mute you, David. That's talking over us isn't gonna be a way to have a conversation. I try to ask for some basic filtering because on the internet, people can say just about anything. The most basic filter I ask for is what has been done that is actually past some level of initial critique, criticism, data analysis, what we normally call the peer review process. What have they done to actually show they've got something? Because again, on the internet, people can claim anything. There are some people that claim they have science PhDs and say they're also flat earthers. Believe me, if they could get that stuff published in a peer-reviewed press, I would pay attention. Before then, just one more voice on the internet. So, David, let's try and say, what sorts of things can we look to that has passed some sort of peer review?
So, I mean, you muted me, right?
That's because you kept over talking. That's how this works.
I mean, like I was talking to you, I waited for her to finish, but you butt in. So how is that even,
David,
like,
if
genuine?
you want to talk about over talking, you're just going to get booted.
When you do, if you're not going to even let me talk.
David, do you have any evidence this past peer review? Yes or no?
The UN literally reviewed Dr. Linoli's research, and you're throwing it out. You can't even do research.
I asked you, what can we look that's been peer reviewed? Do you have it? Yes or no?
Go look up Carlo Acutis, St. Carlo Acutis. You can't do research. That's what I'm saying. You're trying to tell me.
Well, in that case, it's interesting that I did some research just now, and I found a Substack that actually says the entire. Actually, David, I'm going to talk now. All right.
You literally are retarded. You don't know what you're talking about.
David, I did a little bit of digging. I found someone who's apparently done a tiny bit of research here, and apparently this World Health Organization report doesn't actually exist saying the things that people are claiming.
There's literally websites out there that, oh my goodness, have science.
Yes, there are websites out there that also say atheism is true. Do we just go with every website, or do we try to go with what has passed a bit of peer review?
So I'm going to dip in here. So I'm just going to say real quick, David, I'm doing what you asked, right? And that's
he's answering your questions right now. Like, he's answering you. You want science. It's right there. You got your own version of secular science. It must be this way, or it's not. Right? Cut up Jesus.
Hey, David, you gotta like
appear to me now.
David, you gotta. Okay, I'm gonna mute him. I'm sorry. I don't like to do that. But when someone says, David, I want to hear your perspective here because I also did some digging, probably on the same website, probably with the same Google search. I want to share what I think about this proposed miracle because you brought it up, so we wanted to dig into it and see how legit it is. That's fair. We're taking you seriously. We're doing what you asked us to do, which is look into it. No one's hand waving it. No one's saying it's not real off the cuff. The first thing I did was ask, what's the citation so that I can look into it myself? That's taking you at face value. Now, I only muted you here because you were yelling. Please turn the fire down. It's okay. We're not going to yell at you, so please don't yell at us. If you yell at us again, you're going to get booted. So please don't do that. I think this is an interesting subject. I'd like to have this conversation. Now, what's going to happen next is I'm going to unmute you, and if you're cool, if you're chill, then we're going to boot it back to Aaron so he can say what he found out about this miracle. And then if you disagree with him, we can take it from there. Okay. Let's see if we're good. Okay, David, are we chill? Are we good?
I don't think it's charitable not to tell you it like that. Like, you are misleading these people. I'm angry. God's angry.
Okay, David, do you want to have this as a real conversation or not?
That's the thing. He's an omnipotent God. You live in a good and evil world, and you can't even take a little bit of it. You're complaining.
David, I'm giving you more charity than most hosts
You're not
would
God.
do. You got one more shot before you get booted. Do you actually want to have this conversation? Do you want to talk about this miracle by Linoli or not?
There's so many other miracles.
Which one you want to talk about? Let's pick one and let's dissect
That's what I'm saying. Go look up Carlo Acutis. You're not doing research.
Do you want to talk about Linoli's miracle or not? Last shot.
You can look at, you got it? It's on PubMed, right?
Yes, it's actually not on PubMed.
There's other things on PubMed too.
Yeah, I've seen some of the ones that are on PubMed. I can talk about those too if you like.
You want research, right?
Okay. David, I'm going to give it to Aaron. If you interrupt him before he's done, we're going to end the call. Aaron, give your opinion on your research for Linoli's miracle.
So, when I hear about claims like this, I try to go to the primary source, not claims of claims of claims like it's some sort of chain mail. I try to get as much as possible to the primary source, the data they use, so I can see, does the data stack up? Has the data actually been passing some basic controls for quality? That's why I asked about peer-reviewed sources.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing.
It must
I'm trying to find any of this evidence. David? David?
All right. David, I hope you can hear me. I muted you. We got a sentence in there. I want Dr. Adair to get out what he thinks about this miracle, and then you can respond. We're going to give you the chance to respond, but you got to let him finish. So I'm going to unmute you again. Hopefully you haven't gotten too mad, because I don't want you to be mad. I want to have this conversation. The whole reason you're still on this call is because I'm interested in this. So I'm going to unmute you, but we're going to give it back to Aaron. And if you interrupt again, I'm going to mute you again, and we're going to do this ad infinitum, forever until you get booted or we get to the bottom of this. So you're unmuted now. Aaron, continue, and then we'll boot it to David once you've said your piece, and then he can say his piece.
All right. So based on the information you gave, David, about a name, it being related to UN or the World Health Organization, that's how I tried looking for anything I could about publications related to this. What I have found is the following, that apparently, yes, some other people thought this sounds like a pretty amazing story. The World Health Organization saying, yeah, we got proof of miracles. I'd love to see the report. And this other Italian doctor, also tried investigating this. And I'll just read from this blog that is describing it. This is on a Substack by Stacy Transoxco. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, unfortunately. But it talks about this doctor, Dr. Franco Serafini, said that first he had to go and get permission to see this WHO report. Apparently, it was being kept by a bunch of friars in a safe that was locked away, which is a really weird thing for a World Health Organization paper to be stored. That it's not online, it's in a safe by some friars. That's already weird. Nonetheless, this doctor gets access to this and all the studies that are part of this. David, I'm reading the only information I have here.
I'm sorry.
And what this doctor has found published in their own book was that this document was a, quote, terrible fraud, a terrible hoax, very sad.
You're calling it a hoax, and there's so many more.
I'm saying this doctor who investigated it, wanting to see if it was true, and finding out this isn't what was being claimed it was.
Okay, so David, hearing that it seems as though when other people got a look at this report, I haven't looked into this, but based on what Dr. Adair said here, that it was not shown to be true. What do you think about that? And if
The UN confirmed it, Dr. Linoli confirmed it. I mean, there's other things we can talk about too, like miraculous.
You say
healing
confirmed. Where
that you
can we
call
find the report?
spontaneous
Because
healing
here's the problem,
in science.
David.
Like it just,
David,
they
you
magically
say
healed,
this is proven.
right? The body
Where is it
healed.
published? Where is
All
the study
magically.
published? Where is the study published?
But magic don't exist to you.
Where is the study published?
It's on PubMed. Dr. Linoli's.
So
What I'm finding is that's not the case.
On Carlo Acutis' website and stuff. I mean, that knowledge is sacred. If you can't even do the research and you need these specific boundaries.
David, if you insult me one more time about doing the research, when you can't tell me the most basic thing, where is it published? You have not done the research. You have not done the research.
I'm literally giving you, I'm spoon feeding you right now. You can't even tell.
Actually, I'm going to spoon feed you how we actually do this. If I ask for a source and you say it's on the internet, it's on a web page, that ain't a source. I'm talking about what journal.
So
that's a very basic thing I'm asking for here, buddy.
So he's been saying over and over again, and hopefully David is still listening. I've been looking in the background. I can't find this publication. Now, David, if you're, we're going to meet you in a second, and if you have it and it's this easy link on PubMed, just link it in the chat. Right, like put the link in the chat or describe what to Google in the chat so that we can pull it up and then we can go through it together. Otherwise, we can't vet this, right? Like you're saying I'm spoon feeding it to you, but you're kind of not spoon feeding it to us because we can't see it, right? Like all we can find is secondhand accounts either on Wikipedia or in blogs or on Christian newsletters, people talking about it. But I want to read the actual thing, and I can't seem to find it. So can you provide it for us so that we can look at it? Can you spoon feed us?
So you keep muting me, like you don't want to hear me. So like I keep on trying to give my thoughts, but you mute me.
What we want is a source.
I gave you PubMed.
Can you provide?
You know what PubMed is?
Yes. It's where they publish medical journals and stuff, studies.
Okay. Put the link
journal?
in the chat. Yeah, put the link in the chat.
I'm
or give us the title.
Too.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do here,
that.
David. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
I tried to inform you, and you won't even let me.
Okay, hold on. PubMed.com. Let's try that. PubMed. Let's check out the basics. I'm going to the search bar. Linoli, and I know I'm spelling it right because I just checked. Eucharistic miracle. And it should be from the 1970s.
Made up sense of what science should be, right? You're the secular science. You don't know real science.
What we do actually in science is we check claims. That's the most basic thing in science.
You know
check
what's
claims.
going on with the black ops technology and all that stuff. You don't know science, man. You know shit.
All right, David. You're going to have to take it easy. You can't just hop
out in the
off
public
like that.
thinking that and misleading all these people in your chat. You know nothing.
Nah, dude. No way. I can't. I'm sitting here on PubMed.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here. Nah, dude. Hold on. If you're gonna scream because it makes it hard for the actual viewers to listen.
You don't even know about devil.
Okay, I muted him again. I know I'm being liberal with the mute button, but I need you to hear me, David, right? Like, I wanted to have a conversation. You keep yelling into the phone, and then no one can hear anybody. I'm patient, so I'm going to unmute. I'm going to give you a chance to talk. I have pulled this up on PubMed. David's right. It's here on PubMed, except no, it isn't. It says histological, immunological, and biochemical studies on the flesh and blood of the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano 8th century by a one O. Linoli. There is no abstract available, and there is no link There's no DOI. There's no way to access this. So I don't know. I'm trying to find some way to view this. And maybe it's possible that I'm stupid and that I just am unable to do this, but like I look up papers almost every day. I'm pretty familiar with how to actually download them and get a hold of them, even if I don't have direct access to them. In fact, let me just try this and see if I can get it this way so that I can investigate this for myself. Nope, not even the hub has it. So I don't. David, you are unmuted. How can I read
That's
this?
the crazy thing. You made the argument that everything needs to be in a scientific journal or it needs to be on PubMed. So
Where is
the
it?
national security of this country doing research and science, right?
David,
Oh,
where
it
is it?
must
Where
be
is
on
it? I'm on
No,
PubMed.
it's
not
on
here.
PubMed. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's right here. It's not here, David. It's right here, but it's
You
not.
don't
Here, I'm
know.
gonna.
You have
Actually,
no
can I
idea.
show you it? I can
Yeah,
actually share a
please.
screen. I can show you exactly.
I was gonna do it, but I muted him because you started screaming again. David,
Yeah. So
like,
here's what we have on PubMed.
I can't. There's nothing to click.
Yeah, there's nothing here to click. We can only cite it. Now, notice it says the article is in Italian. This thing's in brackets, which means the title has been translated most likely. I
Scroll
can't
down,
find
though,
anything
Aaron.
else about this journal. Oh, so
There's an-
similar
there's an-
articles, but there's no abstract.
No, scroll down further. There's an option that says, there, publication types English abstract, historical article, nothing. Can't get anything from you. I searched in PubMed, nothing. Neither of those work. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. I don't know how we're supposed to read this.
And apparently, we're not the only ones with the same problem. I actually found this on R Catholic on Reddit, where the person was saying, hey, I'm trying to find this article. I want to read it because it sounds interesting. And people saying, yeah, unfortunately, the sourcing about it is crap, and you can't read it on PubMed. The only thing you can do is watch this YouTube video where they happen to flash the Italian for a minute. That's the best we got.
Hold on, though. So let me get this straight. David, you told us that this shit was on PubMed. We took you at face value. Like an absolute fool, I trusted you. Believed you that it was findable, hopped my little ass on PubMed and looked for it, and I'm still unable to access it. And you're still sitting there, probably still yelling right now, talking about how you spoon-fed us a source for a Eucharistic miracle, except no one can read it. So I'm going to ask again, and I mean it so for real this time. This is the last time I'm going to unmute you, and I'm going to ask you, where can we access this? Because surely you would not have cited it here if you have not read it yourself, right? All right, David. Where can we find this article?
You know that these were translated already and put on YouTube for you to read. So, like,
on YouTube,
you have no excuse.
Where's the link?
YouTube has scientific stuff. Harvard's on YouTube. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about over at Yale. Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Who are you guys?
Like, comment, and subscribe. I dropped the call. I'm not doing that. I can't.
Here's something else I found.
Yeah. Show. Hold on.
So this is what I found as an article that cites the Linoli study, and it investigates another Eucharist miracle and finding that the bleeding host was probably some sort of bacterial or fungal contamination of a host. So this was actually building on that previous work, trying to do something with a related bleeding host miracle story and also coming up bupkis. So by the way, this paper I'm finding here on Semantic Scholar, it actually has the figures down here. It looks like I'm able to go to the publication page because it's got a DOI. So this looks like, oh yeah, this is a paper I can actually read. Imagine that. A paper I can read.
That's not
science and shit. So, this is what I would expect. This is the basics of what I would expect. And by the way, as you notice, I paid $0 for this. So we can all go, we can examine this study to see if this host was real. And again, I'm just going to go and look at the abstract here because of our time constraints. But basically saying, unfortunately, the subsequent DNA analysis failed to a limited material made available by the friars who put the remainder of the bleeding host into a monstrance placed in the tabernacle at the high altar of the church in the same part of the place. Similar case of bleeding miracles already. Still venerated. So they're looking at these things. They have their introduction here. If we scroll down to the bottom, we can get to the conclusions. Whereas the visual appearance, it looks like it's such and such. Presence of cell streams cannot be neglected. So yeah, they're saying there's all sorts of contamination here. Oh, Serafini, this was the person I mentioned before that looked into the Linoli case, and also these other, apparently 5 other Eucharistic miracles he investigated, and apparently he also was coming back negative. So yeah, when I quickly try to look and see what we can actually check, what has been examined, what has gone through just some basic level of investigation, Linoli comes up short.
This is going to be a Catholic L for me, and usually the Catholics are getting W's in comparison to the evangelicals. But credit where credit is due. The evangelicals who are proposing that you can heal people by intercessory prayer, you can find their publications, right? Like they publish them in relatively obscure journals, right? But you can find them and read them for yourself. And you can go through it. And they have a frequently asked questions section where they try to address criticisms. Like they're trying to do their due diligence. I would not classify the Slinoli situation as one of those. And my advice to David would be, if you're going to propose that Eucharistic miracles exist, pick examples you have actually vetted. Otherwise, you're going to end up coming on a call-in show and making a doofus of yourself by citing something that no one can read. No one can read it. And then when we finally nail him to the wall on it, he's like, well, it's on YouTube. Brother, where? Give us a link. Give us something to search. And we had to do all the legwork on that. It was very frustrating. I didn't like that.
And also to note, apparently other doctors have done the legwork looking at these alleged claims and also find that they are either not good or just straight up fraud. So please do better.
Do better. All right. We're taking the next call. Oh, shite. Hold on. I just exited out. I've got butterfingers tonight. I just exited myself out of call-in studio. Let me log in.
Well, I got call-in studio up so I can open that.
Okay, open the next one. Okay, wait, I'm almost logged in.
All right, our next one, we got...
Yeah, you got it.
The next one is David, pronouns he, him, from North Carolina, a deist who wants to talk about what's the real meaning of evidence and what qualifies. So, David, welcome. Can you hear us?
Different David.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, David.
I've actually wanted to talk. Hey, how are you?
Doing okay. How are you?
Doing well. I was doing better till that last call.
Me too, man. He was like huffing the galaxy gas before he hopped on here. I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you're here with us now. That we're going to end with a better David call. So tell us a little bit about your perspective, your question, your argument, etc.
Well, I teach international law, so I asked a question about evidence, and I think we got a perfect example now of your last caller, who has no idea what rises to the level of evidence.
I concur.
And quite frankly, it actually comes out of their own book in 1 Peter 3:15, because the classical Greek usage of the word apologia means to have a defense in court with evidence, logic, and reason. And that's one of the reasons Dr. Adair, I had wanted to at some point contact you, because my background is actually in nuclear physics. So now that I teach law and have been involved with law for some time, I look at so much that goes on in our society where people think they know something, and yet what they know is not real. It's just propaganda that they've been told by someone, and they hang on to it for dear life. And so I had first heard you, Dr. Adair, I can't think it was on Myth Vision, one of the other podcasts. And this relates to Christianity. And you had made a comment to someone about how you didn't see that it was possible that after this alleged crucifixion, they went back into the temple, the same temple that they were already getting booted out of, and that somehow Judaism allowed Christianity to grow up right beside of it in that same temple. And
I think I don't know exactly when I may have said that, but I know what context what I meant.
Well, does that sound familiar?
It's at least something I think I have said, but I can't remember when.
Okay. Well, this really gets to my point because we just got a boatload of all these miracles and don't get me wrong, I was in the Christian church myself. I got in at age 26, and then by the time I was 34, I was out of it because I just couldn't deal with the contradictions. And nobody can answer my questions. I mean, I really wanted it to be 100% true, and I just, when I started seeing that they would argue among each other about what things meant, I'm like, this is going nowhere. And then you start learning other things and you start testing, you know, as it even says itself, to test all things. When you start doing that, then we just get to a point where, okay, where's the actual evidence? Then when you start doing a deep dive into that, you really don't find any evidence. And I'm going to say at all, there's a lot of people that will actually, or mythicists or whatever, who will actually contend that Jesus existed. And I contend that there's no evidence. Even the documents that they have that talk about Christ, well, there were other gods like Serapis that were called Christ. So the question still is, where is, you know, I guess my question is for you, Dr. Adair, if I have seen you before, what is your science background? What is your physics background? And what was it that got you, or both of you, to shift your thoughts about religion?
All right. Since I'm the one called out, I'll start. Background in the sciences, I went into undergrad saying I wanted to be an astrophysicist, and I ended getting my PhD in physics from the Ohio State University, focusing on physics education and research. So doing all the stuff that grad students are supposed to do, but my final data collection, analysis, and work was on collections of quarks that we call students. So if any nuclear decays are happening in the classroom, it's not ones I am authorizing. Nonetheless, I left religion mostly for philosophical reasons. I couldn't make good sense of things like the problem of evil. To me, it seemed like naturalism worked so well, while every supernatural claim was not able to be evidenced, or even worse, could be shown to be explained better by natural things. Sometimes by misunderstanding what was seen, sometimes by misremembering, sometimes by straight up lies. It depends case by case what it might be. So it's like, hey, I find no evidence for this. I find the entirety of science working, and naturalism being a really extremely successful philosophy of how the world works and how we should be interacting with it. It's just like, on the scales of justice, one side of the scales has the chains broken from all the weight. And the other one is being actually pulled up with a helium balloon because of how bad I found the evidence to be. It was, if anything, so many of the claims of what was supposed to be evidence for God, if you actually looked at it deeply, in my point of view at least, it actually became evidence against God. For example, the fine-tuning argument. People say, well, the universe has to be fine-tuned for life to exist. And there's actually some statistical reasoning you can do there and actually realize, actually, this is expected on naturalism and unexpected on supernaturalism. So this argument for God is actually evidence against God. And the more fine-tuning the universe requires, the more evidence against God it is. So it's like, holy shnikes, how bad can these arguments be when the best arguments for it is actually a punch in the own face? So that's at least, my opinion on this. And while my opinion is correct, people disagree.
David, thoughts?
Well, I have a question. Like you guys, I've seen you guys, like with this last caller you had. The amount of patience you guys have is unbelievable. I couldn't have one for 1 second have tolerated that. I would have just simply said, well, if you're so full of the Holy Ghost, would you just go please heal some lepers and then grab a couple of fish out of the lake and go feed 5,000 people? I mean, your book did tell you that you were going to. I'm saying it from a.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm totally with you. Like, my whole thing, and I think Aaron and I are on the same page here. We've similar perspectives on this. I would wager, which is that, if you give someone enough rope, they're gonna hang themselves with this kind of thing, right? Like, if you give them an opportunity, typically they're not gonna show themselves to be capable. I want to give people every chance they can to make their case, And that kind of protects you from people coming back and being like, well, you didn't even give me a chance to make my pitch. And it's like, we gave that guy every possible opportunity, and he couldn't keep himself from absolutely like just crashing out, I guess, into the microphone. I don't know what the deal was. Yeah, this is a call-in show though, so you got to have a degree of patience, although, results may vary depending on hosts. Some of us are less patient than others, and some of us are patient to a naive degree. And I would put myself in that category.
No, you did a good job doing the research. I mean, to do it on demand, that was pretty impressive. But one of the other reasons
yeah, sorry, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to address the other issue you guys had talked about on the show because of my background, which had to do with the shooting that you guys talked about. Because matter of fact, Dr. Adair, I was looking at possibly contacting you. I know I've been to your website before, and I've got a lot of different writings on that I do because we have our own AI called Genie. It's loaded with 34 different language models. And so I do a lot of different topics. Some I call scientism, some I call tribalism, and some are on religion or whatever, just because I'm always testing the waters. And one of the things that I have done about human irrationality and what's going on with human irrationality is it boils down to false beliefs and the susceptibility to propaganda. And regardless of what anyone thinks about what happened this weekend, I can tell you right now there's federal case law that federal agents are not going to be tried in state courts. They're not subject to state law. And as a matter of fact, when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, the founders never actually developed the democracy. And that's, to me, one of the most propagandized words in all of the United States, that this was a democracy, and when it actually never was. And if you actually read the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, and all those kind of things, you'll see that what we were all programmed with from the time we were kids is not what actually is being played out. And that's true in all the other areas that I talked about, whether it's religion or government or nationalism. I just call it tribalism because that's the root of it. And it kind of gets into a more back to that philosophical question, because we have this thing where people will run around and they'll say, well, the truth will set you free. But then they turn right around and say, well, the truth hurts. And I'm like, well, how's that possible? How does the truth hurt? So I guess I want your take, from a philosophical point, we want to talk about that. There's very unfortunate things that are happening in the world right now. Very unfortunate. But from a legal standpoint, this comes back to this double-minded thing I just talked about. How is it truth? How does it set you free? And then all of a sudden it hurts and it's painful and you don't want it. Because if we go look at, like he mentioned, the UN, if you look at the treaties that have been signed worldwide and all the way back to the Law of Nations, from Vattel or Wolf or Grotius or any of the guys who wrote Law of Nations, specifically in the human rights treaties, it says that all men are born equal in dignity and rights, and therefore being endowed with reason and conscience should conduct themselves as brothers one to another. And yet we don't. So now I'm not saying I have a solution to that, but these very unfortunate things are happening in and around us and among us. And I find that if somebody's not dedicated to truth, then they're just not going to find answers. They'll stay locked into their presuppositions and basically whatever they were raised with or what someone told them, just like that website he kept mentioning, anybody can put up a website.
Dave, it does sound like we're hitting a few things. So just as a matter of focus, let me go on this because, yeah, absolutely, we fail to live up to our ideals. And that's because very often we have contradictory goals. We, as you said, like in our founding documents, we say all men are created equal, but we had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of slaves at the time that document was signed, and would have millions more until finally making that statement actually have even a semblance of truth in the United States. Why was that? In part because there was a difference between the ideals of what we wanted and the economics of what we wanted as well. You had, especially from the southern states, were absolutely apoplectic about the idea of ending slavery because it would completely destroy their economy and their society. And there's some truth in that. That truth hurt. But the other truth that hurt is that this inequality is destructive, and it ultimately led to the nation literally dividing itself in half, shooting itself, and killing nearly 1 million of its people in the process of just trying to make that statement, all men are created equal, just a little bit more true. Also, to be fair, the Civil War wasn't originally about trying to end slavery. It became that, but just want to prevent the lost causers from coming in and saying they're bullshit. We got complications. We have multiple things that we try balancing. And the fact of the matter is, because we have these arguments, these different polls, we end up saying we want the truth, but then it contradicts something else we want to be true. And, we end up in conflict with ourselves and each other. But that's the best I can think of how to focus on what you're bringing up right now.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess, part of my path has been because, we deal in international affairs. We have built a university in Liberia. I've done a lot of different things that I didn't expect to do in my life. It's not how I was raised. Grew up on a farm. But it's been, ever since I was in doing nuclear physics and nuclear power, I just never stopped studying. It's just a constant thing for me. And I think this is missing. And there's like this missing thing about the desire. It's like, the old adage that's been said for a long time that the purpose of thinking is to stop thinking. So people want to think just long enough to develop an opinion, and then that's the way it goes. And I find the same thing, your calls end up being mostly about religion here. And I don't think people take it seriously enough. I know I didn't when I first got involved. They don't take the ongoing education, learning, and knowledge seriously enough.
Well, the best we can do is try being serious ourselves and show them why they want to join us. As I say, come to atheism, we have milk and cookies.
Well, that was really my point. I find that after all these years looking at things where it's written and you go get the good principles out of there, like 1 Peter 3:15, to have a ready answer, to be able to know and understand and provide the evidence for that answer, that's one of the things that I found just creates growth. It puts you in a place where you don't remain stagnant.
I think that's a good way of thinking, David. Thank you for calling in. We got one more caller to get to, and we're trying to keep a schedule tonight, so I hate to cut you off here, but please feel free to call back again if you have any more thoughts on the subject.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We got one last call. We got Alex, pronouns he, him, from Romania. They are an atheist. He is an atheist, and he says, how to effectively counter pop science woo. Alex, you are on SkepTalk. Can you hear us?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Coming in loud and clear. Tell us a little bit about your question.
Okay. So my thesis is that the way pop science is done is harmful to scientific understanding in the public. And my case now is that I have this acquaintance. He is one of the more outspoken atheists online in my country. Some weeks ago, he posted about a book he was reading, and he was very enthusiastic, and he said he was very great book about simulation hypothesis. I told him that basically without reading the book, because I know what that is. I've read Nick Bostrom. I know about the long-termist. I know how that led to the FTX a fiasco, and all of the eugenics that come out of that. So I'm very familiar with that. And I told him that basically it's bullshit, and that was that at that point. Now he comes out with a very long post trying to justify himself for no longer being atheist and turning to being an agnostic. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but the problem is that I've asked him about the books he read, and there's a lot of authors that are not scientific. They're just doing pretend science, and I'm not sure how to counter this, because I basically have to take each and every book and counter so much stuff that I would lose him. I would. It's too much to counter, and since if someone cannot distinguish between bad science and like proper science, it's very hard to do it, and I'm not sure how to do it.
Yeah, it can be kind of difficult. I mean, I've had a bone to pick with pop science way more lately than I have in the past, because the era of like clickbait and attention farming has made headlines and brief summaries of scientific papers far less accurate than they were even 10 years ago, which is not a good thing. Pop science is kind of, and I'm being broad here. This isn't always the case. It's just the case a lot, at least right now. A lot of times lately, pop science is sort of like it's like junk food, it's sugary and not very good for you, and it gives you a little bit of information, but ultimately not very much, and you walk away with no real sustained new knowledge a lot of the time. Whereas good scientific communication, good pop science, actual abstracts, actual papers tend to be like a really well-cooked meal put together with all the delicious nutrients and pieces, great for your palate, healthy for your body, but takes an absolute shit ton more effort to make compared to a donut, like junk food, right? So we have a problem because they can get the same amount of attention for far less work, and you end up with like a Brandolini's law kind of situation where the amount of effort that it takes to debunk a wrong idea is like proportional to how wrong the idea actually is. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time. Sometimes you'll find, I think, that you have.
Can I
Go
interrupt
ahead.
a bit?
Yeah, please go ahead.
The problem is not really the amount of time, because I could invest that time, but I would lose them on the journey. I mean, there's so much, so many points to address step by step, and that's my problem.
Sometimes I think. Oh, go ahead. You go ahead, Aaron. I hogged the beginning.
So I think the main concern Alex has here is losing the person along the way. And I think the way you would want to approach this is not going and saying, you've said a bunch of stuff, I'm going to debunk it. Instead, you want to have more of a dialogue, Socratic process of going back and forth on that. So that way you are journeying together, investigating these things. So, for example, they have 10 claims that you find to be bonkers in some way or another. Maybe the best thing to say, hey, of these things, which of them do you think you have the strongest reasons to believe? And then say, hey, let's investigate this together. Let's talk about what's the evidence for this. Is it actually mainstream or is it fringe? Is the reason it's fringe is because the evidence isn't good, etc. If you do things like that and you're doing it collaboratively rather than coming in as the attacker, I think there's less risk of losing the person, and both along the way, hopefully find something else new in that process, whether this thing is true or not, but also understanding where does this belief come from? Why might it actually be interesting that people did believe it? Is there some sort of like science that was misunderstood? Was it actually a lie? Is it folklore? Lots of things that could be answered just by exploring it. And in that process, you and your friend basically have a journey together rather than you being an antagonist. So that's my personal advice.
I think too, in this casual setting, I found a little bit of success in being like just overly curious about the perspective in admittedly a little bit of a snarky way. So like if I'm talking to somebody about like aliens built the pyramids. It's like, what, you don't think people could push rocks together? You don't think they could figure that out? And then they're like, well, no. And then that sort of takes you down the rabbit trail. Like you can ask them questions that you kind of know the answer to and sort of force them to defend it. And that oftentimes forces somebody to actually examine why they find that idea compelling in the first place.
Okay. That's a good point for a follow-up question. When doing this, one problem I've encountered with people is that basically they will get into an ad hominem. They will get to a point where I'm trying to disprove something, but I do not have the credentials to disprove it, whereas the author or person who they believe have some actual credential or have some pretend credential. They're like whatever, and I'm at a loss there because sure, I'm not a credentialed person to actually disprove them, and who am I to tell them that someone who pretends to have a PhD or something isn't right. I'm not sure what to do then either.
That's when you hit them with the, well, what does your guy know that these 100 other guys with the same degree don't? Right? Like if your friend wants to play a game of argument from authority, then you can play the game of argument from consensus. And then obviously that's not going to go anywhere. And then you can just say, okay, well, instead of just arguing with whose dad can beat up whose dad here, let's talk about the actual arguments themselves and try to get to the core of one of them. And as Aaron said, let him pick his favorite. Which one does he like the most? Which one can he best defend? And then just, treat it low stakes. Because if this is a relationship that you want to maintain, just keep tempers cool, have a little fun with it, look stuff up together.
Fair. One more problem here is that the topics in this case are related to things like the interpretations of quantum mechanics, which are interpretations. There's no decided options, but if someone takes those and links them to spiritual woo topics, then they're already just interpretations. They're not settled things. And it's even harder then.
So in that case, you would basically, I think, in that discussion say, are you saying that you're coming to these rather spooky things based on a minority interpretation of physics? It seems like a rather thin reed to say all sorts of amazing things based on what some people think this equation might say, but scientists don't even agree on it. Taking a minority view on something where there's no consensus to undo the consensus of everything else we can see is probably an unwise move. Also, if you're talking about quantum mysticism, quantum woo, one of the YouTube channels, we're promoting other YouTube channels all day today. So one of the ones I subscribe to, it's called Angela Symposium. The person is a PhD in religion and the occult studies. Her name's Angela Puka, and she just came out just a few days ago about the issues of spiritualists trying to use interpretation of quantum mechanics to promote their views about synchronicity and things like that. And she points out, here are the people making the claims, here's why it's actually in a minority position, and if you want to actually be respectful of what the science is, here is the only middle ground that's currently available. And I thought it was a really well-balanced presentation by someone who wants spiritualists and witchcraft practitioners to, as much as possible, be on the side of good science and scholarship.
Great. Can you spell the name? Angela
Puka. So the YouTube channel is Angela Symposium.
Angela Symposium. Okay, I'll Google that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk.
You're welcome, Alex. Good luck, my friend. Take care. That is the last call, so that means it's time for super chats. My favorite. I'm gonna start the super chats this time with this. I saw someone in the comments section. I replied to this in the side chat because I'm always telling callers to not look at chat, but then I look at chat a lot. I like to see what chat's saying. And chat's usually nice to me, usually during the calls. And then we get to the super chats. Anyways, I checked out what they were up to, and they're like, man, Erika's got to be one of the most profitable hosts on the line. I'm thinking that's making me feel pretty good. And then they're like, because she rage baits everybody into super chatting in puns. I wish I was that devious. I wish that was, and I said this in the chat as well. I wish that would be brilliant. Do you know how devious that would actually be? This is just hate for hate's sake. This is chat torturing me like Icarus like Prometheus tied to the rock, eating my liver out every time I host, and then I come back and we do it again and again and again. It's nice that we make money off of it, but that doesn't make it any less irritating.
Well, the thing is, though, hate for hate's sake, isn't that the tagline for Twitter now?
It may as well be the tagline for Twitter. After Alex was killed, I went on Twitter to see what was going on. I was at least pleased to see that the things that were trending were very anti-ICE, because fuck ICE. But there was also a lot of just rancid garbage, which I think is another really good tagline for Twitter. It's just rancid garbage. That's what you come here to see. Just humanity at its worst. Anyways, $5 from Arnaj. Very cute profile picture. Adorable puppy. If I was there, I would kiss that puppy right here on their little nose, but like right above their little nose. Wanted to call in both to ask more about physics. Have you made more progress in alien isolation? We'll listen on my drive tonight. That's got to be a question for you, Aaron.
Okay, well, they're talking about the video game Alien Isolation, and I have not played the game at all in years, so absolutely no progress on my part. I have nothing to report. I am both too busy and have too much free time to play games. I spend my free time, unfortunately, being distracted from video games. In fact, it's this bad. I haven't played a video game since the pandemic.
Dang. What are you reading?
Well, here are some of the books my wife and I are going through right now for our Godzilla book project.
Oh, nice. You guys are making a Godzilla book?
Oh, yes. Yes, we are very slowly making progress on that. And that means, of course, seeing what everyone else has said about the big guy. And, well, he's a big guy, so it moves slowly.
He's a big guy. He's a big guy. This one's
yes.
for...
All right. All right, so we got $5 from Invader Zim, Lost and Found. Hi, Erika. Email sent. Our timeline is preferably this year, but we'll absolutely give you as much time as you need for your shot. We salute you, tallest Erika.
That's what a wonderful, what would that be? An honorific, maybe? Tallest? I think tallest is an honorific. I'll take it. Thank you, Invaders of Lost and Found. Yeah, this week I'm scheduled to sit down and do my bi-monthly answer all my emails. So I usually start with reset and move back. So you should hear from me soon. £5.
In the meanwhile, though, we probably need to celebrate that message from Invader Zim by singing the Doom song. Doom, 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 doom. I've only seen like 2 episodes of Invader Zim, so that's stuck in my head.
The Invader Zim quote that sticks with me is the one where Zim keeps getting up to go to the bathroom, and so he keeps asking Miss Withers if he can go, and he's like, I have a mighty need to go to the bathroom once again, Miss Withers, and he just screams that part. I love it. £5 from Vincent King, 2552. I'm not sure if I can choose which is better between biology or physics, but paleontology I really dig. Hashtag science jokes for Erika. I can't stand an inaccurate super chat because that's not a joke. That's a pun. And to be a joke, it must be funny. To me, at least. And I find that to be that is my subjective definition. Okay, let me think. You know what I've been doing? Here's what I'll say. I've been sitting here. My fidget toy for this stream has been this piece of metal. This is a rattleback. It is a weird metal top that will spin almost forever in one direction, but if you spin it in the other direction, it wobbles, corrects itself, and then spins in the other direction. Like, it's a cool top. I've been playing with it a lot. Actually, Aaron would love it. I'm going to show up at your house with this top. And I'm going to ram it directly down your trachea. That's what I'm going to do. Not you, Aaron, but the punster. Your turn.
So what you're saying is you are going to do a combination of physics and biology by taking the physics toy and performing a biology-ending action.
Yes, and you know what? Let's just take it next level, paleontology. I'll take the body and put it in a peat bog so that it can be recovered decades and decades and decades from now, partially permineralized even.
But here's the thing. If you do that, you are setting yourself up for your own doom as that person rises from their tarry grave as a skeleton and then points and says, I've got a bone to pick with you.
They could try that. I'm dead. Thank God. Thank God by then I'll be dead. I will not have to suffer that. I won't have to.
You said only decades. You said only decades they were in the ground.
I said decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. So I don't know. Well, maybe I still would be alive. If I was, the pun would be, the evil of the pun would be overshadowed by the fact that I was talking to a skeleton. That would be.
You'll be deaf by then anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I won't be able to hear it. That's fine. And if I'm not...
Sign language. The skeleton can do sign language, I'm pretty sure.
I think they would have to. They don't have a... Well, their trachea was so damaged from my rattleback, they couldn't speak even if it was still preserved. It would rattle in there, though.
All right. So how about now we got $5 from Zetsunawa. Erika, can you explain the evolution of the rhesus monkey? Which species was chocolate and which was peanut butter? Where did they finally collide?
What an evil hybridization style joke. You make light of the species problem? Really? Zakos 2016 would be ashamed of you. Zet Sunawa. Are you tied up in that PFP? Or is that somebody who's tied up?
Yeah, that's Shibari.
Who's Shibari?
It's rope tying, but artistic and kinky.
Okay. Well, the good news is I could tie a weight to that and drop you into the Baltic Sea. $5 from Stomp 10. How did life get started on Earth? Wow, easy question right out the gate. And what are the necessary conditions for life? Great show, by the way. Keep up the great work. Do you want to do? How do you feel about abiogenesis? Do you have a favorite hypothesis? Are you a warm little pond guy or a hydrothermal vent guy?
Well, I think the necessary conditions are peanut butter and jelly.
For life?
I'm not enough of a biologist to answer this question. So it's chemistry stuff. It's a mixture of stuff. Beyond that, I have no useful input.
You need an environment that is relatively constant, that is relatively warm, and one that is rich in nutrients, rich in minerals, one that's going to allow for self-assembly of some degree, a safe place for it to replicate away from the elements. This is why the warm little pond and the hydrothermal vents are both proposed, because warm little ponds tend to have a lot of nutrients in them, and hydrothermal vents are constantly belching them out into the seawater. I am not sure which of the... I mean, I'll be honest. I'm more of a hydrothermal vent kind of gal, just because I think that they've shown more support for that. As far as like the necessary steps, thankfully you didn't ask for the necessary steps. Well, I guess you asked how. I guess I kind of explained the how. But don't ask me about the necessary steps. Like, I'm not sure, or the order of the steps. Like, I'm not sure if I'm an RNA first or metabolism first, or like, how those sort of go hand in hand. What I do know is that once the conditions were present, they weren't present in one spot on the face of this planet. Geothermal activity is rarely that localized. It was probably, I think it's reasonable to propose that like hydrothermal vents today, there would have been many, many, many places for this to happen, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happened more than once. Trillions and trillions of test tubes constantly relaying various experiments with the water and the nutrients for, I don't know, millions of years, hundreds of millions of years in all reality. What we know is that life got started really, really damn fast, right? Like, the Earth cools enough, roughly, around like in between what 4 and 4.3 billion years ago, and then life shows up on the most recent estimates for molecular clocks, 4.1 billion years ago, 3.8. Like, if you want to go with stromatolites, it's pretty fast. I mean, life is an infection, a wonderful, wonderful infection. This one's you.
Oh, right. So $5 from Ardenage. People have been giving Erika too much grief over her hatred of puns.
You can't show up to an arena like this with a pun that's been that used, my friend. You got to come up with if you're gonna bring that to me, if you're gonna bring me slop, at least bring me at least bring me original slop. But at least your dog was cute. $5 from Joshua Everett. Erika's sleeve count this week 0. Justice for John's overly toasty shoulders. I don't really do shirts with sleeves on days that I exercise, and I'm a workout machine these days because I got a walking treadmill in my house, and I've been trapped inside because of this big snowstorm, so I've just been walking miles and miles and miles every day, like 10 miles a day while I do work on my standing desk, and I don't want to get pit stains on shirts that I like because I get sweaty. So, but I like this. This is a cool muscle shirt. It's got like Illuminati and then skeletons too, so it's kind of neat. I like it.
All right. $5 from Hits 1123. Oh, wait, that's Fibonacci sequence. Haha. Hits Fibonacci. Hurts Fibonacci? I'm not quite sure. When the universe reaches heat death, would objects still be pulled together by gravity? Or is that part of everything being at equilibrium? So for a really long time, the universe will consist of nothing but black holes as the only like significant objects left. Actually, there will also be some weird things. So there's some projections that white dwarfs, even after they go cold, will still have really weird quantum events happening inside. And after bazillions of years, and that's a new number I just invented, copyright, they can actually explode because of so many the materials will have transitioned and become unstable that there aren't actually the electrons there to fight against the degeneracy pressure necessary. But that's way out there. There should still probably be some compact objects. So it won't be like one molecule evenly spaced from all other ones, even at that point. Best I can say. But also, this depends on one other thing that we do not know as of yet. We so far haven't detected it, but a lot of the physics theories we have suggest that protons will decay over extremely long periods of time. And if protons can decay, then all atoms will eventually be destroyed just by waiting long enough. But so far, we haven't detected any proton decays. So whatever the lifespan is, it's too long for us yet to detect. Nonetheless, if proton decay happens, then yeah, it might be the case that eventually everything absolutely disintegrates. So I think it's somewhat of an open question.
Spookiest of spooky. $10 from Ray Gatto. Love seeing this profile picture cat in different pictures, different modes, different positions of relaxation every time I see Ray Gatto. Erika and Aaron, how is a black hole created? Don't ask me this question. Chuck Norris, roundhouse. Oh, I get it. I was wondering why I was being asked about that. I get it. It's meant to be an insult to me with the pun afterwards. Chuck Norris, roundhouse kick space. But at least it's not a pun. I mean, that's not a pun. That's just goofy. Keep up the good work. Hashtag bad science joke. Chuck Norris puns. This is not a pun. This is just a Chuck Norris joke. How is the black hole created? He roundhouse kicks. Yeah, because he's so powerful. He like punches through the space-time continuum or whatever.
I'm trying to think though. If you had a roundhouse kick going fast enough, eventually it seems like you'd have enough energy stored that you could produce a black hole. So if you have enough energy in one place, it would warp space-time enough that it would actually do black hole formation. I'd have to do the math to figure out how fast that roundhouse kick would have to go, but let's just say this much. It would probably be before, it would probably be well after the point that your atoms would be able to hold together and actually provide enough centripetal force. So unlikely, even for Mr. Norris, especially given the fact that he isn't quite as deserving of the credit that Chuck Norris jokes give him.
Yeah, he kind of made an ass of himself later on, but we try to forget about that.
That's why I say Walker, Texas later. That's my pun for the night. Okay.
Ha 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 ha. Staccato. I can't kill you because you're my girlfriend. We'll just wait.
All right. We got $5 from One-Eyed Atheist. Erika, I'll let you know if Sasquatch visits me and sends them up your way. If you promise to let me know if the flying saucers land in your yard.
Dude, if flying saucers, no one would be happier than me. Like, this is what I'm saying. I'm such a motivated reasoner with Bigfoot, big feet, really any type of hominid style cryptid. I like those guys. I like flying saucers, love it. I want to believe in them so badly. And of course, the greatest non-ape cryptid, which is the Fresno Nightcrawler, the pair of pants from Fresno. That's been recorded walking in the night. Those three things, I want to believe in them so badly. So please, send Bigfoot my way. I will direct the flying saucers to your place the moment I meet them. You're first on my
I just realized it. I think I have the solution. Now that you mentioned Bigfoot and flying saucers, I realized the much more plausible thing. Are you familiar with Silent Hill 2?
I know of Silent Hill 2.
The Shiba Inu ending?
I'm not that familiar. I don't know the multiple endings.
Okay, one of the endings that you can get is you find out that all the terrible things that were happening to the protagonist is actually being done in a control room run by a very intelligent Shiba Inu.
Oh wow. So Bigfoot is the one managing the saucers. I like that.
No, it's a Shiba Inu that's doing all the weird stuff.
No,
that was messing with our guest.
That's very Cabin in the Woods as well.
Minus Sigourney Weaver, but yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh wait, this is you. Wait, no, this is me. $5 from Elias Shana Silverbow. Oh, of course, Elias Shana Silverbow. And I see that Galaxy PFP, and my blood starts to boil. How does Bigfoot tell time? He's got a Sasquatch. Yeah, I get it. It's a Sasquatch because time, and because Sasquatch rhymes with the word watch. Where would you even find a watch big enough for his enormous wrists, or she, or they? Where would you even get that out of here? Don't even come at me with a pun like that unless you're prepared to back that up with some adorable fan art. Don't even be gone from me.
This reminds me of a slightly better watch-based pun. Are you familiar with the Swatch?
Such thing. No such thing.
I'll show you. Are you familiar with the Swatch?
No.
It was a kind of watch built in Switzerland, so Switzerland watch, Swatch.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, it's a good thing they didn't build it in Croatia.
Crotch, because crotch, I get it. But I don't know that's, it's wordplay.
Yeah.
It's wordplay.
It's also unoriginal. I literally stole that from the puppet comedian Jeff Dunham, so I'm not responsible for being that good of a joker.
Erika just trying desperately to find any excuse to not threaten Dr. Adair.
Jeff Dunham? That's almost worse than the puns. Yeah, I am, because I don't threaten co-hosts, except occasionally Forrest, but that's special circumstances. I am trying very hard. I can behave myself for hosts, but boy, Dr. Adair's trying my patience. Especially with that Jeff Dunham reference. Oh my god. Okay, wait, this is you.
It is me, but I will also just, in my defense, say, there was a time with my previous girlfriend, she was not feeling well, and I showed her clips of that on YouTube, and it just made her day and made her happy. And so that's why I associate with that comedian. It made my girlfriend at the time happy.
Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna, I was meant to be sassy, but I'm not gonna be. You read this one.
Very well. So how about $5 from Elishana Silverbow? Bigfoot is sometimes confused with Sasquatch. Yeti never complains.
Yeah,
Did you get it? Yeti never complains.
It's not fair to bring the ape cryptids into this, is the thing. Like, Gibbon is one that gets pulled into it a lot, and I get it, because it's low-hanging fruit. But, like, this is relatively high-level wordplay, especially for Leah Shauna Silverbow, to tie it specifically, to make it topical. So, like, I do have to give credit for that. However, I'm not sure that I can come up with a way to kill Elias Shauna Silverbow, especially given the Yeti Sasquatch thing, that doesn't involve something involving feet or crushing them to death with a large boot. And I just can't bring that crowd into my airspace. The feet people, I can't do it. So how about I'm gonna kill you with the gun. How about that? Okay, $5 from Ekman Jones. What is Sasquatch's favorite brand of cooler? Yeti. That's just an association. It's just a word. That's just two words that are related. That's not even a pun. That's just there is a cooler brand that is called Yeti. that's like, what is that an example of? That's like being like, what's a mouse's favorite cracker? Cheez-It, because get it, because mice like cheese. Get out of my face with that. Read the next one, Dr. Adair.
Yes, ma'am. $5 from Fremlings. Why can't you give a Bigfoot a microphone? He'll start a podcast. Get it, Erika? Pod means foot.
I actually didn't get it. To be fair, for a second, I thought it was just like, because if you're like a hairy white dude and you are in the proximity of a microphone, you just will start a podcast. I thought this was actually like a sort of dunk on the appearance of men like Joe Rogan, who do and can appear very simian. His arms are very long, and what is it that hack Bill Burr says now? Where he like his knuckles drag when he's trying to skateboard, or on roller skates his knuckles would drag. That's the joke. Anyways, Bill Burr used to be funny until he went to the Saudi Arabian Comedy Festival. I'm not a fan anymore. I don't like a sellout. $4.99, and now I'm in a bad mood. Now thinking about that makes me mad, because he used to be kind of funny to me, and now
let me put you in a better mood when it comes to podcasts. This was maybe at least 10 years ago, when Futurama was off the air, but all of the voice actors still wanted to do stuff. They made a Futurama radio show. They basically did a podcast, and the premise of it was there were too many podcasts and it formed a black hole. So they were already complaining that there were too many podcasts like a decade ago, and then you have to have Fry and Bender save the universe.
To be fair, if I was ever going to watch a podcast or listen to a podcast, one with the cast of Futurama would be up there. Because Futurama is very lovely, and I do like all of the voice actors.
Yeah, so there is a radio version of Futurama if you want to go find it. I'm pretty sure it's still findable with a bit of Googling.
I feel like it would be. Yeah, it's gonna be around somewhere. $4.99 from Rob McGee, JI3XU. Vamping is not just filling time. It's performing for the camera. Maybe every second of this show is performing for the camera. Where do you think you are? You're in the hands of professionals.
£5 from Mystic Mind Analysis. Yes, Aaron, but have you considered drawing a really cool spaceship around that equation and use that to break the speed of light? Okay, let's try the experiment. All right. Cool spaceship.
You're meant to build a black hole right here on the planet. Nice.
All right.
You doomed us all. Yeah, that is a pretty...
Is it cool yet? Is it cool yet? Am I cool? No, of course not.
Racing stripe would do it.
Yeah, you got to put air holes in it. It makes the ship go faster in space.
That's true. That's so true. Wonderful. $5 from Bobby Keniston, 7240. Yeah, I already know what this is going to be about. Erika, yesterday, Seth flat out asked you about Bonobo's boinking habits. It was the chance of a lifetime to use Bonobo. Why do you hate me? No, Bobby, I knew that. I need you to know, I did think about it, and I was filled with such white-hot rage that it even came to mind that I told myself I would never give you the satisfaction, ever.
Your own brain betrayed you.
Yeah, I know. It's too much association is the problem. I've heard it too many times, and I was like, it happened, and I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, no. And then that's when my temperature started rising. Oh, wait, this is you. I'm always about to jump the gun, but...
Well, actually, I'm going to ask you a bit of a primatology question. Do any primates have a baculum?
Yes, actually, most primates do. Chimpanzees have a baculum, but it's about the size of your thumbnail. It's very small. It's like the size of a grain of rice. It's all but vestigial. The only primates other than humans that have lost the baculum completely are callitrichids, so marmosets and tamarins. And what's really interesting about that is that they are also like monomorphic, so the males and females are the same size, and they tend to pair bond like humans tend to do as well. And they're also polyandrous sometimes, so there's an interesting little crossover there of like diversity in mating systems, low sexual dimorphism, and the loss of the baculum that are probably tied together. Why?
Because I was thinking, like, if we had some sort of time travel sort of thing to investigate what we could about this, we could have a movie about this called Baculum to the Future.
Baculum to the Future. That's amazing, Aaron. Aaron, have you ever seen... Oh, I'm about to do it. I'm about to threaten the co-host. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm
At
refraining.
least not on camera.
Yeah, no, I'm refraining. Hey, ask me about the clever way that I was going to kill you with the back because there's a really good way that I was going to do it. Ask me after the show is over when you're not my co-host. Okay, but you're reading this.
All right. Okay, so how about $5 from Space Barbarian 3484? If flat Earth thinking made its way onto the road construction, maritime aviation, and space sectors, there would be real world consequences. Oh yes. Yeah, the fact that even in just a few miles of construction, and you realize, hey, we can't build these bridges right anymore. Whoopsies.
Yeah, ask Zion Oil and Gas how they're doing without radiometric dating to help them basin model to find oil and gas. It's the same thing, right? Like they're young Earth creationists, so they're like, we're not going to use these stinky poo-poo doo-doo types of investigating basins to find the best spots to drill. We're going to do it with the power of I don't like the Lord. I'm not really sure how they do it actually. Like I think they just mostly tap known beds. I used to say that it bankrupted them, but I actually think they're still scraping by. I think you can still buy stocks, but it's very, very cheap. $5 from the Raven 200. This is a very threatening profile picture. David beats off to the sound of his own voice, specifically when he's spouting slurs and talking over people. Yeah, when when he did that caught me off guard. I actually laughed because I was like, oh, okay, like because of course, right? Like yeah, he's gonna be a guy like David. He's gonna be saying the R slur. He's gonna be doing that.
All right. So how about $5 from Charizard? Is that a kind of shiny Pokemon? I would assume so if it's Saffron, but nonetheless, just helping bingo.
Is this Sapphic Charizard? I've been saying Sapphic Hazard.
It's Sapphic Hazard.
Okay.
Oh, I totally misread that. I apologize. / actually, I don't mind. We just created a new original Pokemon.
That would be a cool one too, to be fair. Sapphic Charizard, a Sapphic Charizard, that would be based as hell, just saying.
But let's get this right, and I apologize for getting this wrong the first time. So Sapphic Hazard. Just helping bingo players along here. Linemerch.com. Well, indeed, you should, because you can still get some of these wonderful mugs.
Shit. My monad mug isn't even
This is the only mug that's available. This is the only mug we should buy. This is the only mug. There is only one mug. I'm using my Jedi mind trick to sell mugs.
I feel like if you like me at all, then you would buy the In This House We Fear the Monad mug. It's a good mug. And they're tall mugs, like they're high quality mugs. I use them. I actually use mine. It's just I actually did the dishes. As I said before, I do my cleaning on Sunday, so I did the dishes yesterday. And so I took all my mugs downstairs. My monad mug was downstairs, or it is now. Buy my mug.
Now, all right. I should also finish out this bingo card because we got linemerch.com, metaphysical foreskins, Godzilla delivering an argumentum ad populum. Should there be a comma there? Is it Godzilla and an argument ad populum, or is Godzilla actually arguing with a logical fallacy? I just want some clarity there. Nonetheless, simulation theory, bingo.
Didn't we get simulation theory secondhand through our last caller's friend?
Yes.
You should make sure you mark that because we did get a secondhand.
Yes.
Also, Sapphic Hazard, this feels like cheating.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Bingo's for everyone every time. We have $5 from Joshua Everett 9887. Thank you, Aaron, for the physics dad joke. Don't reward him. Don't reward him for bad behavior.
Unfortunately, you are too late to make me break away from this terrible behavior. It's instilled into me. I am beyond saving.
Yeah. That once it takes hold, it rarely leaves. Punsters, once a punster, always a punster.
Oh yes. On the other hand, $5 from Elishana Silverbow. Dr. Adair, could you recommend a book with updated astronomy and cosmology for someone who got their BS in physics over 10 years ago? Thanks. Ooh, the fact that you said updated cosmology book means it's a bit harder for me. So I need to look back at my shelf right now. So let me just quickly note here. This is the astrophysics book I used when I was an undergrad It's a little bit thick, and unfortunately, I think this book itself was published in the late 90s. Just looking quickly for the year. Yeah, 1996. So technically 30 years out of date, but on the other hand, a lot of the basic physics should still be correct here. It won't know important things, though, like dark energy. I think back on the other shelf, I have a cosmology book that was written by Steve Weinberg, but Weinberg is also dead, so I know it's out of date. And even that book is probably a bit advanced, unless you're actually at graduate level. I'm probably having a hard time coming up with good recommendations, and it also depends on what you want. So, do you want to do the math, or do you want to be up to date at a kind of hand wavy level of how we know things? Like, do you want to calculate things from the virial theorem directly, or do you want to see the results of black hole pictures? It really depends on what you want there, but I wouldn't know other than like some of the random textbooks I happen to have on my bookshelf back here.
We got $9.99 by Outwitted by a Fish. David off the Eucharist miracle pissed me off. I think that makes 100 billion of us. As someone who has actually toiled in the laboratory, I can say searching on the internet is not doing research. Grr. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We knew from the beginning, but we just needed to confirm.
All right. Ooh, a talking snake. Or at least it can type. So $5 from the Atheist Mechanic, Erika and Dr. Adair. It's always a pleasure hearing from you two. Thank you for a great show. FICE FDT. Stay safe, friends. Mr. Mechanic, Mrs. Mechanic, mechanics around the world, let's use more adult language. It's not F-ice, it's fuck ice. Let's use the appropriate adult language to express how much they need to get the fuck out.
We're all united on this. Everybody who matters is united on this. $5 from a secular feminist. Love this comrade kitty at the top. I think I've said exactly that phrase before on this show. What do you do with a sick... Okay, burning goodwill immediately. What do you do with a sick chemist if you can't cure him or heal him? You bury him. If you can't cure them or heal them, you bury them because you kill them. Take this and apply it to yourself. But instead of curing or healing you, those aren't even options. It's just the last one. And then what I do in the middle is killium you. £5 from Barbara Barrett, 07.
No, I'm supposed to read this one.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
My bad.
But it's also worth noting. We have an important question. Since you liked the kitty, do you have a favorite communist cat?
A favorite communist cat? I like to believe that my childhood cat is a communist. I like to believe that my cat, Jude, he's a domestic long-haired black cat with green eyes. He's huge. He has giant snowshoe feet. I like to believe that he is a communist. Other than him, Fritz the cat? Is Fritz the cat a communist?
I believe, though, the correct answer is Chairman Mao.
Oh, okay. I get it. Oh, Aaron, you are so pushing your luck tonight. You're just taking every opportunity, aren't you? I don't know if you can hear, but I'm tapping my foot. I'm doing my little breathing exercises over here. It's okay. Read the super chat. Read the super chat.
Yes, you can't see it. It's out of frame, but Erika has like a collection of stress balls, and they just keep popping.
Yeah, they can. It's just like what I do is I just pick up a fistful of Orbeez and I squeeze them until there's nothing left, until they turn to mush in my hands. You just can't see that my hands are wet because I dry them on my pants.
All right. So how about these nice, generous £5 from Barbara Barrett 07? The company of those who seek the truth is infinitely preferable to that of those who claim they found it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I would agree. $5 from Joshua Everett, 9887. I got a dual super PhD in ghostology and enchanted ceramics of the 14th century. Joshua Everett, you joke, but you should watch my show with Seth yesterday because Renee called in and told us that she had 2 PhDs and they were bestowed upon her by the Most High. 2 PhDs. 2 different PhDs, which God gave her. It was a very bizarre conversation.
It came from the Most High. Was one of
From the
those
Most High.
PhDs in tokenomics?
It was, they were in like, one of them was like a master's of, or no, a master's of divinity. One of them was in biblical studies, and the other one was in spirituality, I think. I was telling my husband about it afterwards, and he was like, that's that's bonkers, because it took longer than it should have for us to figure out that was where she had gotten them from. And I'm laughing, but like, I'm laughing because it took me kind of off guard. I'm not 100%, like, I think Renee could benefit from a conversation with a mental health professional with that particular thing. But anyways.
Mm-hmm. You or me, I forget at this point.
This is you.
All right, so $5 from Bramlix. I wonder how many people named Dexter are left-handed. Latin jokes. I like it.
If I don't get it, it can't make me mad. $10 from the
Okay, no. We gotta go back.
No,
so,
I know.
I would really love to go eat dinner like this year, maybe.
It's ambidextrous because it means two hand, right? So I know it's something hand related.
Well, Dexter is specifically right hand, and then the left hand is sinister.
$10 from the. I appreciate me, producers and call screeners. $10 from the Mentaculus. Erika, did you hear? Wonderful. Did you hear about the Pannon species that apparently crafted a primitive woodwind instrument? I think it was a bone oboe. A primitive woodwind instrument that was a bone oboe. I will break your shins. I will come to and then I will turn them into oboes and then play it at your funeral. That's what I'll do. This late in the game, when Lux is so hungry, really?
How about $5 from Idle Bits? The bartender says we don't serve time travelers here. A time traveler walks into a bar.
See, that's like a joke. That's a joke. That's like because what do time travelers do? You know, it's not contingent. Anyways, $5 from Arndt Nash. Aaron, if you stream Alien Isolation on Nightmare mode, I'll drop 100 at the beginning of the stream.
Wow.
I really want you to play Alien Isolation.
Okay, so I mean, I have a PlayStation 4. How am I supposed to do this? Like I don't have a streaming channel. Am I going to just take my phone, point it at the TV, and like just turn on TikTok and just live stream me screaming at the television? I'm not 100% sure.
I like horror movies, but horror games scare me. I guess that's the point. They made me jump. I got spooked by Lethal Company. I'm not equipped for that.
I think this one's you.
Oh, $5 from Bramley CX. There was once wonderful. I'm so glad it's Bramley. Let me think of a mug-related way to commit murder. There was once a man that no one ever really saw who worked at a graveyard. His name was Crypted. Shouldn't it be like in Crypted? Like can't it? Whatever. Your turn. Bramley, I'm gonna fill. Hold on. Here's what I'll do. Mug filled with boiling. Let's go with honey. Can you boil honey? And then I drop it
with effort.
The weight from it is what does it, not the boiling honey itself. But the mug is hot. The surface does hurt.
Okay.
It's just for the weight.
Well, let's see if this one hurts. $5 from Sapphic Hazard. Kind of like how Elvis's brother Enos hated it when Big Bro started getting called Elvis the Pelvis. Hashtag stolen from PDQ Bach.
Is that true? Did Elvis get called Elvis the Pelvis?
His shaking hips was known. If you ever got that nickname, I don't know. But shout out to PDQ Bach. I have not heard about that composer in so many years.
You want to hear something cool? At my grandma's on my mom's side's prom, do you know who played? Context clues. Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash played at their prom together. Like same, I'm sure not sharing the stage, but like one then the other. It was like it was before they were both famous, I think. It was Johnny Cash. Well, look it up. It was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, is where it would have been. Someone, actually, it's possible she's lying to me, so someone check. $5 from SJL. I have a friend from Dover who knew the guys that first saw the Dover demon. She maintains it was simply drunk teens. They say the same thing about the Fresno Nightcrawler, that it was drunk teens with pants on a clothesline. I want to believe. I want to believe the Dover demon is real. I want to believe in the Fresno Nightcrawlers. Give me the skunk ape, chupacabra. Love it. I just haven't seen any proof for any of it, which sucks.
$5 from Eliashana Silverbow. What vegetable will I become after Erika sicks Bigfoot on me? Squash. Hashtag response to Erika joke.
That's just literally same as always with puns. You construct an absolutely absurd scenario and then shoehorn in a word that kind of makes sense or that has a double meaning. No one will find your squished remains. $5 from President Starscream. Have astronomers discovered any Tron stars, or are all Tron stars new? I don't know what that means. That's yours.
Oldtron. Ultron.
Yes, it's like
Did they mean
Ultron,
iron?
Neutron.
Yes. That's all right. Now you've explained the joke well, so I appreciate it. President Starscream! We now understand your joke. It was okay.
It wasn't. $10 from Joshua Everett. To mix primatology, physics, and kaiju. Oh, you know what? My friend Dabbers, we've had this conversation too. How long could Kong realistically fight against Godzilla, especially when scaled to similar size, given Kong has no obvious way to reduce body heat buildup? Kong needs a weapon, and even then, he's probably getting bodied by Godzilla. It sucks, but it's true. He needs either an atomic breath or he needs a weapon, and that's just to make it close. But he does have Godzilla on the thumbs.
I think, though, this is more of a biomechanical issue. The fact that you make King Kong so large, he has so much internal body heat that he should just be suffering heat stroke just by standing up.
He needs a big Dimetrodon-style sail.
$5 from Isla Ursus. Erika has the best mug. There's a universe in the monad. But here's the thing. The monad is one. I have infinite.
The monad is infinite. Someone seems to be forgetting the definition of the monad, which is that it is 1, 0, everything, nothing. Anything that could be the monad is. Also, I wish I could take credit for the design. I actually told Arden when we were sending the designs, and I was like, I want mine to say, "In this house we fear the monad." And then I was like, and I'm going to come up with some kind of little doodle to put on it. And then I never did do that. So I don't know who actually came up with the design. The phrase is mine. The design is not mine. I wish I could take credit for it because the universe is in the monad. It's a very good mug. $5 from the Atheist Mechanic. Apologies. I had to censor my super chat for F-Ice because it won't let me type out the word. Don't apologize. We know the sentiment. And Cute Snake.
$5 from Lord Ben 6584. Trump the Lich can't hide his phylactery forever. I don't know if I pronounced that medical term correctly. If we are to beat him, I need the best warriors to fell the Dark Lord and save the land. Well, if his phylactery system is failing, I don't think we need warriors. We just need McDonald's to continue to do what it's been doing to his body.
I think a phylactery is like the source of a lich's power, or like where something of the lich resides.
Okay. My medical knowledge is extremely weak. The leg bone connects to the elbow bone.
No, that's definitely a
put
dumb,
skeletons together.
like supernatural thing. Like a lich is like an undead being, but it has control over its own body, and a phylactery is like how it's like a Horcrux.
Okay. Nonetheless, I took phylactery as a medical term, and because my medical knowledge is just so bad, I couldn't tell how wrong a turn I took in Albuquerque, mentally speaking.
Hold on. I found the prom thing. There. I just put it. You guys can tell it. I think it might have been Bono instead of Jonesboro. My grandparents moved around a lot. Okay. $5 from Aaliyah. Shauna Silverbow. Dr. Adair, I'm happy with the math. I don't need the pretty pictures. My knowledge is over 10 years out of date, and I want to update it. Okay? I would want the pictures personally, but...
All right. Well, like I say, let me see if I can quickly... Oh, I guess we're actually done with Super Chat. So I'm going to just super quickly see if on my bookshelf I can find the cosmology book I'm thinking of.
I know we had one more super chat because I saw it and I liked it. I'm about to click on it. We got, hold on. Someone said it was Gibbon related. I'm searching. It was Gibbon related. At least I think it was. Hold on. I'm not going to miss
out.
out.
$2 super chat that had the word Gibbon in it.
No!
Just asked what's your favorite Gibbon.
I know, and it's $2. Okay, pretend that I'm just reading chat. I'm not reading this super chat because we don't read super chats over $5, but sometimes I respond miscellaneously to chat. Pretend that this is one of those. My favorite Gibbon is a tie between 3 separate Gibbons. 1, Siamang, Symphalangus syndactylus. 2, the classic Lar Gibbon, Hylobates lar. And 3, Mueller's Gibbon, Hylobates muelleri. They're all really cute in different ways. Especially Symphalangus syndactylus. They have the huge throat sacs. They're so cute. And the little side parts. And then Mueller's Gibbon kind of looks like a little plushie. They look so sad all the time. Their little lips are so pursed. I also like Hylobates clausii. Sometimes it's clausi, but at Swifton High School, 1955. That doesn't make sense. I think it would have been Jonesboro or Bono, but I guess it could have been Swift. Here's what I'll do. I'll text my mom and ask her because she'll know. Okay. And then I can confirm this for you guys next time.
In the meanwhile, a little bit of digging through my bookshelves, and yes, I found the cosmology book I remember that was written by the late Steve Weinberg, who was a Nobel Prize winner in his work in high-energy particle physics. The book itself says it was published in 2008, so it will know about dark energy, but obviously there's still a lot that was not known then. This was before we took our first picture of a black hole, but it's still probably plenty good for getting up to speed on a lot of cosmology, understanding things like the cosmic microwave background, how we use that to confirm the shape of the universe, and also what we at least knew back then about dark energy. I'll also note that there is now some controversy if dark energy is actually constant or not. There's some evidence suggesting that it's actually something that gets weaker over time, but there's still a lot of argumentation if that evidence is sufficiently good and it has some implications that seem non-physical. So it's very much on the edge of what is being debated. So it almost certainly won't be in any textbooks for a while.
Hold on. 1 second. I'm checking. Yeah, well, I'll be damned. Swifton. Where is Swifton, Arkansas? Swifton. You guys can play me off while I check this out. Arkansas. Is it in
We did
Jackson?
get a couple last-minute supers.
Okay, good. Is this near? Hold on. Okay, hold on. Directions, maybe? I'm going to see how close Swifton is to Bono to see if I'm like absolutely tripping out here. Hello? Where's the maps?
Well, I think Swifton is pretty close to Taylor.
Boo! Be gone. Okay, wait. Actually, they're really close. That could have been it. This is within they're within 30 minutes. No, 20 minutes of each other. So that could have been the school. It could have been Swifton. That's close enough to Bono. Well done. Okay. And my mom said it was Bono High, or she says in Bono. So that's why I was seeing if it's in there. But anyways, give me some credit. I can't believe I pulled that out of my ass. Okay, let's see. What's the next super chat? It's $5. Okay, well, I was answering that super chat. Perfect. I wasn't even looking at it. Next super chat.
$5 from Lord Ben 6584. Liches are wizards who use their dark power over dark magic to escape death by tying their soul to an object. As a result, they cannot die until it breaks. So yeah, much like a Horcrux in that sort of terminology for the Harry Potterisms. Okay, I appreciate the update. I've heard Lich before, but the other things not so much. So I am glad to keep my undead categorizations correct. I appreciate it.
Folks, I do not know what the precise schedule is. I don't know who's showing up when because I didn't pull it up in Discord, but I'm going to do it right now. And then I'm going to tell you who is coming on when so that you guys can make sure that you literally don't miss anything. God damn it, I just missed it. Okay, Lux just sent it. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. We have tomorrow Chew Gum with Alyssa and Taylor at 6 p.m. CST. Then we got the Hang Up on 6 p.m. CST or at 6 p.m. CST, right here again with Matt Dillahunty and Javon. Then we have the Transatlantic Call-In Show with Ben and Lux at 2 p.m. CST on, Thursday? And then nothing, and then nothing, and then Sunday, we have Forrest Valkai and Shannon. Wait, that was yesterday, Sunday.
I don't
we
think
don't
we
have the schedule for February yet.
And then we don't know. It could be anything. Anything could happen. That's why you got to show up right back here every day after Thursday to find out who's going to be here, who's going to be performing, if you will. It's going to be great no matter who it is, because all the hosts on this show rock. We always have a good time. And with that, folks, I hope that you guys will seriously consider, if you like this kind of thing, liking, commenting, subscribing, hit the like button if you will. It helps us. It helps all the folks here. And I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my gentleman first very on heart for being here. We are out. Have a wonderful evening. See you real soon next time.